Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
We head to the track today where the cars are frequently known for staying well over 80% on throttle over the entire course of a lap. The Temple of Speed graces its presence here for the GT Endurance Series, the Endurance Cup Europe, for round number 3 at Monza in Italy. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, as we head into the 3-hour challenger for the mid round here of this season. My name is Tristan Herbst, joined in the commentary box today as well by Dan Davis and Howie Burrows in the background, controlling all of our cameras and making sure that you get to see all the great shots around the circuit here in the north of Milan. Dan, I think it's going to be an incredible day of racing here today. The GT3s are out bright and early on the circuit. Qualifying has already been done and dusted, and just one 3-hour race to go here at the Autodromo Nazionale of Monza.
Good afternoon and hello to everyone all over the world watching this this afternoon, evening or morning, wherever you are watching. And yeah, it's going to be an exciting 3-hour race ahead of us here, like I said, at the Temple of Speed of Monza, and an iconic circuit, well-known circuit. Probably everyone in the world knows Monza, and definitely produces some fantastic racing. Also produces some absolute carnage. So it is definitely a circuit where opportunities are available, and with a 3-hour race, obviously one of the into the shorter end of the season where races are a lot shorter, it's going to be more of a sprint for these guys rather than an endurance, as they're going to get their heads around this circuit, their competition, and find out the best opportunities they can. But like I said, Tristan, it's going to be a fantastic race ahead of us, and I'm a average fan of Monza, not the biggest fan of it. I would definitely prefer circuits like Imola in Italy, but either way, it is a challenge nonetheless.
Yeah, challenge indeed. And like you mentioned, onto the shorter leg end of the 2026 calendar year for the Endurance Cup Europe. We're into round number 3 at Monza. Obviously, we do have Nürburgring and then Portimao coming up to round off your season. All of them 3-hour-long races. So in essence, it is just a bunch of sprint races left to go after the inaugural Spa 24-hour that we got to witness just a couple of weeks back for round number 2, which was also a fantastic race for all of our teams to get those points in the board. There were 4 windows for points to be scored across the entire event. Obviously today only going to be one window with that 3-hour margin, so not a lot of time to be played with here in terms of on-track time. And considering it as well, as I mentioned at the beginning, there's only a certain amount of corners here, 11 corners at total, 11 turns in this track, and 80% of the time our drivers are full throttle. It is a very, very vertical circuit in terms of not really much variation in direction, and lots and lots of straights going on all the way, obviously, from Parabolica down to turn number 1. You've got the Ascari straight and a couple of other great corners, which are going to prove to be quite challenging for our GT3 drivers. There's also the inaugural turn number 1, which I know myself and Dan are already indebted to see how that's going to go down. It's never a good experience, especially with the huge pack of cars that we've got on the grid here today. So let's hope our drivers can keep their cool for this one, and hopefully we can see somewhat of a clean turn 1 throughout this event. We do have a couple of our cars, though, that will be starting from the pit lane. Cars number 6, 91, 77, 138, car number 397, 893, and as well as car number 64. They'll be starting from the pit lane for this event. We do have the grid graphic ready for you, though, to witness how the drivers are stacking up for today's event. It is indeed going to be Gabriel Rizzoni for the Team Racing Point, who also won at the Spa 24 Hours, starting up at P number 1. Alessio Doppio for the secondary car of the Team Racing Point will take second, so good domination coming from Team Racing Point there. Matthias Costa for the Rosso Esports with Douglas Souza in the Delta Racing team. Thiago Mello in the Bravo Snow with Carlos Coxinho in the Ronin PT team. From 7th downwards, we've got a couple more to come. It's Jorge Cid Santa Maria in the DCS Racing team, Dennis Blocker for Project 91 in the 8th position slot, Tristan Engelstad for the Quad Ash Racing team, Mirko Usicic in the Velch competitions, Enzo de Morales Billet in the Chrono Sim Sport, and then Pascal Eckhart in the Just for Speed, rounding off your top 12.
And heading into the row 7, we have the Pack Sim Sport racing car number 55 sitting in that 13th place position. In the 14th is the Impact Sim Sport number 6 car, with then the 15th place position go to the other Ronin PT car, the 64. Then Delta Racing 4 car sitting in that 16th place position with DSP Esports Racing team sat in 17th place position, with Fisher Motorsport number 44 in that 18th place position. Those two AM drivers doing a good qualifying there to get themselves that high. Into the 19th place position, we've got the other Delta Racing car, the 31 car, ahead of the 104 car in 20th position of the DSP Esports Racing team, followed by the Prism Motorsport 309 in 21st position, with 22nd going the way of the Team Racing Point car on the 27. Rising Panda Racing, probably still my favorite name I've seen in a sim race, sat there in the number 47 car, starting 23rd with DSP Esports Racing team, the 69 in 24th position.
Yeah, not too many more to go now in this longer grid. 25th position with Lucas Santos. He'll be starting it off for the Summit Esports team, the number 35. Fabian Schmidberger in the Nearleon Pace. 26th position, Ronnie Richter in the Rising Panda Racing, so the secondary Rising Panda Racing car. Rand van Steeland in the Bernico Racing team, that's down in 28th, and then Paolo Calvo in the Flight Level Racing. Rob Johnson is going to be down 30th in the Andromeda Racing team, 31st downwards. And we're still it's going to be Jesus Saez Collado in the 967 iRacing team. Ryan Steinhoff in 32nd for the Fisher Motorsports number 84 car. And then it's Juamati Haikala, and he's down at the Rusty Spatulas team, the number 112. Hugo Silva in the 34th position slot in the 101 for Turn 1 Racing. Let's hope that they have a bit of a better race this time around compared to how it turned out for Spa. Turn 1 really were looking good. And then a couple of strategy, and I believe a little bit of suspension damage from what I can remember, ended them down into 34th. It's going to be Fernando Neto starting it off for the additional Delta Racing, quite a couple of Delta Racing cars on the grid here for the Monza 3 hour. The number 32 is going to be starting in 35th, and then Emma Ryu in the 138 is going to be starting it off in 36. And then just to finishing off quickly, we do have Kekoa Lycett in the Sankyo Racing team, the number 893 for the Pro-Ams, down in 37. 38 is Ian Brown for the Sahara X GT Motorsports, which is quite drastically dropped down there. Hopefully that's one of their secondary cars, but that is the 397, as we mentioned, in the one of the cars that are going to be starting from the pit lane today. So clearly they didn't even bother with qualifying when they knew they would be starting from the pit lane. And then it's Luka Boganovic in the Team HSK Motorsport, also having quite an eventful race last week. Last round in the 24 hour. In terms of your strategy that's coming in for your drivers today, there's not going to be as many driver swap outs compared to a 24 hour race. It is only going to be 3 hours on the board here. And so there might be a couple of driver swaps up and down the field, but there's not going to be too many. I would presume a maximum of a three driver team here, but I assume most will be driving with a 2-man team. So we'll have to wait and see how that goes. We do have one more formation lap coming up for you before we get to the racing. The drivers need to be calmed down and controlled. And it looks like we've added another 2 pace laps, unfortunately. So Dan, we're going to be here for quite some time as the GT3s get nice and warmed up around the circuit.
We are indeed, and it looks like those pair of Lamborghinis once again though on the front row. They've been quite from the 2 races I've obviously had the pleasure of commentating. They've been very dominant as the 2 Lamborghinis at the front row of the grid. But this is Monza; anything can happen. The tempo of speed. Obviously, you got the challenges of Ascari. Then you've also got the Parabolica corner as well. So Monza does, let alone even though it's a very simplistic circuit, it's a challenge on its own. Just as it's simple corners, you're just nailing those corners every time. And I think it's the circuit's really going to offer patience to drivers. Whoever can be the most patient, whoever can be the most less risked, will end up being near to the front. But I do think it's going to be a long and interesting race. It'll be interesting to see how the front engine cars will get on. The likes of the Mercedes, the BMW later on might be a little bit better on tyre wear. But yeah, it should be a relatively exciting race ahead of us. And just let's hope there's not too many dramas going into turn one, because we know how congested the chicane can get. Because even a real GT World Challenge, that was a that was an interesting start to their campaign when they raced here at Monza.
I think Monza just proves to be an interesting start in general, whether it's the start of a championship or even just the start of a standard league race. It really does. It really does provide quite a bit of entertainment, especially towards the start of it, as our drivers do take to it. But like we did mention, just a couple more formation laps. The drivers will be getting nice and warmed up here. So I believe 2 of those laps are going to be for tyre warming, and then 1 additional formation lap just to make sure everybody is good to go before the start. We will obviously let you know if we do have any other warm-up laps coming in. In terms of weather, though, we are looking nice and shiny for pretty much the entire duration of this. There is a mere 22% chance of precipitation here today. 47 degrees track temp and 30 degrees ambient, so nice and warm out there. Well, it's nice and warm out there for the spectators. I wouldn't say that's nice and warm for the drivers in their cockpits. 22% humidity, apologies, not precipitation. So it's just slightly more sticky in the air, but does not look like there's going to be any chance of rain here for today. And then obviously a very slow blowing wind over the circuit here in North Milan. So drivers still taking to their warm-up. And I think you raised an interesting point as well as to what car is going to be dominating in the long run. Obviously, we do have the 2 Lamborghinis who have slotted themselves right on the top blocks, which is also, something it's quite strange to see, especially with Monza being such a dominating circuit for top speed, and the front-engine cars such as the BMW, the Mercedes, and especially that big new Ford Mustang with the 5.6-liter up in front. In terms of other platforms and some other things I've commentated over, the Mustang has been an interesting topic on circuits like Monza. They do tend to generate the most amount of top speed here, but it seems like the Lamborghinis, just in the minor technical corners here around Monza, have been the more beneficial car around circuit. The Lambos obviously still rocking the big V10s in those mid-engine cars, so definitely a big powerhouse in those Lamborghinis, but I would have assumed a little bit more coming from the front engines. In any case, though, only time is going to tell here how each cars are going to play their characteristics out on circuit. But those 2 Lamborghini drivers, both in teams and both in the same team, and are definitely going to be playing a bit of team strategy here to keep them well ahead of the rest of the pack.
Yeah, indeed. And like I said, it's always handy to have your teammate up there with you, ready to play rear gunner, whoever from the Team Racing Point cars, whoever ends up going into turn number 1 first will probably end up being there. Let's hope it's not too many McLaren shenanigans where if one of them has a bad pit stop, they're going to have to decide to swap around just to make it fair. Yeah, they got a lot of powerful cars behind them, especially on the straights. Like I said, the Mercedes, the BMW, the Mustang. It is going to be tricky for these 2 Lamborghinis to hold it, but I think once they get into the middle sector of the circuit where the Lamborghini should be at its strongest, then I don't see why not. They should be able to start to pull a gap. But it'd be interesting to see as well how the Pro-Ams and the AMS driver get on, because again, like I said, the amount of detail it takes for cars to be consistent, to be clean, usually the pro drivers will be spot on, but there will be the occasional fight here and there, and that's when the other guys have the opportunity to try and pounce and try and work their way up the order. Because I know for sure that one of the things that I definitely appreciate, especially in multi-class events, you always want to try and be a top driver. You always want to have a go at a pro. You always want to have a go at a Pro-Am if you're in an AM class. You just gotta. It's just you end up just being like a little dog, just biting at the ankles, wanting to take that opportunity. But we'll see how this goes with this. Like I said, with the sticky air, sticky conditions, track obviously very aggressive, especially towards the middle sector. It's going to be interesting, and with 3 hours, your mind's got to be focused and on the job all the way to the end. And be interested to see if these Lambos can hang in there to the very end.
Yeah, 3 hours, like we chatted about, I think to some of the viewers, maybe if it's your first time watching endurance, 3 hours seems like a really long stretch to be sitting inside of a car. But I mean, in standard endurance, it's 3 hours is very, very short. And so this should be the lap that our pace car comes in. I do see that the top bar lights have been turned off. However, we did get baited with that at the Spa 24 where the pace lights were off, and then he just decided to stay out on the circuit. So we won't play on that factor. We'll play on the factor of obviously what our producer can see and the information we get fed, and just watching to see if that pace car is going to jump in or not in this lap. But hopefully this will be the lap of embarkment here for round number 3 of the GT Endurance Cup Europe. And so far, what a season it's been with the 24-hour and a couple of the previous rounds coming in. Obviously, we had the prologue of Red Bull Ring, and then we had the actual round 1 result coming in from Red Bull Ring. That was on the 16th of May, and then Spa in July, which was an incredible race nonetheless. Now into the 1st of August to start off your month with a good old endurance race. What a way to start it off with some GT3 racing around one of the oldest GT circuits out in the world, which is quite a nice place to be at for this kind of racing. We do head into the final corner here of Parabolica, the final roundup as we get up towards the checkered flag line. The pace car has pulled neatly up ahead of the rest of the grid, which is good signals as to how this is going to be playing out for this lap, and it does indeed look like this will be the lap of green flag racing here. We'll get the final call out for when the racing starts. The two up in front are going to be competing, and it does look like we are going to be going green this lap. Watch for when that the leader there of Team Racing Point decides to pull the trigger, and we're waiting for it still. You'll see that there'll be a slight nudging from him. There we go. We see the Lamborghini start to just joust forward, and there we go. Green flag racing has officially been instantiated. And Team Racing Point, the number 2 car, already under pressure from the Mercedes. They're coming in from Delta Racing, and Welch Motorsports from Marko Usicic also now putting the pressure on, up in second place. Turn 1 is looking relatively okay, and I just spoke too soon. There's already one of the Deltas around, and he's right into the middle of the chicane there. A couple of other cars have also received a couple of rear end taps there, but for the most part of it, that was a relatively clean turn 1. The 2 Deltas up in front still keep their posture neatly up at the top rankings there. The rest of the cars all piling on behind, but it is green flag racing here in Monza, and a good start to the 3-hour.
It is indeed, and the 19 got the start that he needed, got the jump, and even pulled a bit of a gap as it went green flag racing. But then the 16, a teammate car of Team Racing Point, under a little bit of pressure from the Mercedes. But Rosso Esports could have sent it up the inside, but chose not to. But we still got some close, congested racing as we go through the first couple of, I believe these are called the Lesmos, as they go up through Lesmo 2 and down towards Ascari we go. And that Mercedes-Benz is still giving the Lamborghinis a hard time and sticking with them very well, and these 3 starting to put away from the pack. But classic Monza starts here, the chicane causing some form of issues there, and in the end a few drivers got caught out with that one. But nonetheless, the 2 Lamborghinis lead the way as the rest of the pack start to feed their way through and down towards Parabolica for the first time. But that Mercedes-Benz still looking menacing in the Lamborghini's rear view as the Rosso Esports team car heads to try and be a little bit of a nuisance. The Bravo Snow car, the Ford, just a little bit off the pace at the minute, but hopefully once they get into a bit of a groove, they'll start working their way up as well. But relatively clean start, other than that small little issue at the start of the race.
Yeah, relatively clean start indeed, and we will try and see if we can grab a couple of replays of those turn 1 incidents, but for the time being we still watch on strongly as to how it is turning out between the rest of our drivers here. There's a couple of cars still going around as we still see the race progressing up further. Currently on board with one of our Lamborghinis from the Welch Motorsports. He's currently getting pressure here from the Just for Speed Mercedes that's just cutting up behind him, and we'll have to see how this is going to work out. And Just for Speed putting pressure there on Mirko Usicic. The Welch Competitions car had a good run last round in Spa, trying to chase down on the lead for the Pro-Ams and just missing out by a short margin here. So let's hope that he can try and climb up and get something here. But this is Just for Speed. This is the AM category actually for the Mercedes. So putting pressure on one of the Pro-Ams, and then Quadash and DCS behind, both are part of the pros. They're trying to get past these two and then try and put pressure on their own in PT Carp ahead of Carlos Coxinho, who also proved to be quite a challenge for those two teams in the 24-hour. Back up to the top, though, the Rosso Esports car up in third of Matias Baraldo will be continuously applying pressure. Here comes a bit of an inside defend from the Welch, but it's not going to be enough. And what a great move there from Pascal Eckhart in the Just for Speed in the Mercedes. It almost looks like he's in the wrong class there. That was an easy overtake on one of the Pro-Ams, and he moves up further. currently leading the charge for the AM Championship here. And then obviously the Velge competitions in the lead for the Pro-Ams. The rest of the cars all coming through. You'll notice on your live timings tower the different colors on the name borders. So white is going to be your Pro class, then black is going to be your Pro-Ams, and then red is going to be your AM class. So currently on board with the Flight Level Racing down in 25th position. They're putting pressure on Unitronic Fisher Motorsports of Ryan Steinhoff, and let's see how they can manage it throughout. That's the Porsche up in front as they head through Parabolica now. It is going to be side by side between that Porsche, and he's lost it in the rear there. Thankfully, he's been avoided, and my goodness, that was close. That, I believe, is the Ansys Fisher Motorsports of Benjamin Fisher just losing it out of Parabolica there, and looks like he's actually going to come into the pit lane. So a bit of a weird one. 5 minutes in, no damage on that car, and he's decided to pull it into the pits.
I don't know how realistic the iRacing physics are, but he may have damaged the tyres quite significantly there and had to go, right, let's ditch these tyres and just get into clean air. Might be worth getting into a little bit of clean air. Obviously, a lot of the cars starting from pit lane, they've got that clean air now and working through strategy. So 3 hours is still time to make their way back up as we get a replay here earlier on in the start of the race. This is lap 1 up towards the Curva Grande, and it looks like the BMW holding on a fight between the Porsche and the Ferrari. Many manufacturers going at it toe for toe as we see there's a turn 1 incident here for the BMW. He's returning to the circuit as we go back to the chicane. A Delta Racing car we're currently on board with as we go through there, and yeah, the Porsche and the BMW coming together there. Not sure exactly how that happened, because there seemed like a bit of an odd contact as we see the BMW being relatively cautious going into the chicane. And I'm not sure if that was understeer, but he came together with the McLaren and the Porsche, and in the end he resulted out worse. That a relatively, I'd say, a typical turn 1 incident, but fairly non-chaotic as we see further back going into the Parabolica as well. A bit of door banging and shoving and bumper rubbing, as in NASCAR they say that there's a reason you have bumpers and you use them to work your way forward. As we see the Porsche just losing the rear, the Fisher Motorsport guy just losing the rear end of the car, and around it goes as we have another look here from the helicopter view. It doesn't look like anyone's gonna make contact with him. No, it's just, he loses the rear all on his own, and everyone doing a fantastic job of not making contact. So not the start for the Fisher Motorsport guys as we go back to the live action here, Tristan.
Yeah, 2 good replays there, and thanks to our producer for going back and having a look at those. But it's still, I just don't see the justification there for the Ansys to jump into the pit lane after such a small spin. I mean, yes, the iRacing physics are realistic, but that would not have cooked your tires to the point of having to jump into the pit lane and get all 4 swapped out. So very strange coming in there from Benjamin Fisher as he had to jump into the pit lane there. Back up to our live timings, as Dan mentioned, and Velge Competitions has still lost out to Just for Speed, not able to get up a little bit closer, but nor is the DCS racing car behind. That's in a 6th position in class of Ethan Davies, and that indeed was the car who made contact with the likes of Douglas Souza of the number 12 Delta Racing, that BMW saw in the replay, who lost it into turn number 1. And I do agree with you, very strange coming in from that BMW. It just looked like he didn't turn at all. I mean, he started making for the corner and then just decided to go straight on, and obviously that persuaded to the contact that happened between the DCS team and the Delta Racing team. So let's hope that we can see a good recovery from Delta Racing's driver of Douglas Souza. He's down in 14th at the moment. You can see him just in the background there in the long train, and so hopefully he can recover something in this race. On board though with Quadash, this is Serena Tohar, and Quadash also getting some incredible results at the 24-hour. Lots of good plays up and down the field for the BMW team, and now currently on the backside of the DCS Racing Porsche. Yeah, down the straight they'll go. The BMW should have slightly better top speed yet, but the Porsche is just motoring on here. Absolutely no resistance there between the two cars, and Quadash will have to just sit patiently waiting for a better opportunity to find an overtake. First 10 minutes of the race, not too chaotic, and I was expecting worse in all honesty, so things have gone quite well. Here comes a good overtake opportunity though, and the Andromeda Racing of Emeru on the inside of the iRacing team now, and looking to make the pass. That was apologies on Ryan Steinhoff from the Unitronic Fisher Motorsports team. Now will be on the backside of the 967 iRacing team, up in 24th position, and then 7th in class for the AMs. And so Andromeda Racing will be trying to push on. Project 91 does get ahead of the Rusty Spatulas. That's down in 30th. I believe that was into turn 1. And so a couple of swaps coming around the field as we progress throughout this race. There we do indeed see the car of Douglas Souza, the BMW driver who spun just a couple of laps ago on lap number 1, and he's already fighting it out with the Pax Simsport team of Jeff Kalfold, and he's got Enzo Alquini behind, but that's a fellow Delta Racing driver, so they should work together here to try and get up ahead of the Pax Simsport team. And then another Delta Racing up ahead of Lucas de Abreu, but he's in the AM class just up ahead in the BMW. So a little bit of a Delta sandwich here that the Pax Simsport is stuck in. The Corvette will have to get his work done and dusted, or else he will be succumbed by the team trying to make their ways back up with Delta Racing of Douglas Souza. The number 12 was the leading team in that Delta pack and then got spun out. So let's hope he can make those swift recoveries throughout this race. But the rest of the drivers will continue to push on. We've had a couple of drivers really finding the marks in terms of places up, and a couple of drivers really not doing too great on a race start. But the racing continues, and the action will hopefully continue to provide.
Will and do, and Monza always provides great racing, as we see the Mercedes-Benz there of the 138 making a move through Parabolica, and a great opportunity to use that Mercedes power as Emma works her way up towards the positions here. As we've got the Rising Panda, Aston Martin also now looking to make a move on the inside of I think that's one of the is it Delta Racing LMGT into the chicane, and Rising Panda gets the job done through the chicane. And just to make things worse is the Delta car just struggles with traction, and now has another Mercedes-Benz up their backside, as we now look to more action going into the first Lesmo, as down the inside goes the Lamborghini to finally clear the Just 4 Speed, but contact is made, and the front bumper's gone, and that's going to do a little bit of damage to the splitter as well. And yeah, the Just 4 Speed car just losing out there, and now going to struggle with aero, as they've also got a Porsche of the DCS Racing. This could end in tears, as the Mercedes looks to go to the inside of Ascari, and the Porsche looking to the outside as well. 3 don't go into 1, and they're all trying to feed their way through the tricky Ascari chicane. Now we got another car joining on the back of him. We got the BMW as well of the Kunos Sim Sports car as well, right into the group here, and it's starting to form a little bit of a train as you now head into Parabolica. Porsche down the inside and gets the job done on the Mercedes-Benz. The Just 4 Speed car is slowly dropping down the order, losing out to the Lambo, losing out to the Porsche, and now the BMW sets them up. But a good exit there from the Mercedes-Benz. Is going to look to make a move into turn 1, and the Mercedes should have the grunt on the Porsche. As we go to the helicopter cam and see all the action from above, as the Porsche just got the legs on the Mercedes this time out. Very, I wouldn't say scrappy, it's very light fisticuffs for that sequence of corners. And the Lambo's had a bad exit out of 1 and 2, and is now under pressure once again from the DSC Racing Porsche, and is going to go around the outside of the Curva Grande, and is going to have the inside then for the next chicane, which is very important. But head into the braking zones now, and the Lambo trying to outbrake, trying to keep the position, but has to go deep and losing out to the Porsche. So the Porsche ends up moving 2 positions in the end, and more scraps going on in the background as the Delta Racing squad are properly getting their racing on and get ahead of the Corvette. It's been a little bit of a frantic couple of laps here, Tristan.
Yeah, looks like a little bit of a team play coming there from Delta Racing. They've completely swapped around their orders, and Douglas is going to move back up into 12th position, into 12th for the number 12, and swapping it around with Lucas de Abreu. Unfortunately, Enzo Alquini has still been stuck behind the Corvette there of Jeff Kalfold from Pax Simsport, so he's still well into the Delta sandwich here, and he'll have to manage himself out on the field there to not cause any other issues as he tries to get around these drivers, but quite difficult as it may stand. You can see that the team play is definitely there. The Just 4 Speed car can be quite lucky. Seems like his damage was merely net code, and so he's looking all good and fine on the front side of his Merc. He continues to push on to the Welch Competitions car up ahead, and he's lost out 1 spot, but he wants to try and get it back up, although the DCS has completely swapped it around and obviously gotten ahead of both of them here. But the Welch Competitions car is going to want to try and get this back. After losing out on that position. Poor excel at turn 1, like Dan said, and that just threw him off. It looks like the Bonica Racing team of Rand Van Steelen does get ahead of the Simid Esports team down at 17th, so a couple of swaps coming around there. Now it looks like Simid Esports has lost out to Sahara. So has there been something wrong there with the Simid Esports? They've lost 2 positions already, and we'll have to have a look and see as they're down in 19th position overall in class. Looks like they are indeed. That's the Andromeda and Rising Panda Racing. They've jumped into the pit lane there. And there is a bit of damage on that Aston Martin, although it does blip back. So looks like I'm not too sure if that damage is going to be permanent or not, but very odd to see that. So the Rising Panda is indeed in, and he's jumped into the pit stop here. He has a bit of a replay to maybe see if something has possibly happened. There is damage on that Andromeda Racing of Julian Thibe, and lost damage quite a couple of laps ago. So that front, and you can see how unstable it is. My goodness, and there's a little bit of contact in the background there that we might have missed out on, and that background contact is going to be the important one to have a look at, so we'll maybe try and see. So this is currently aboard of the Delta Racing LMGT team of Fernando Nito, and he's currently around track in 33rd but 10th in class, and so he had I believe the 101 behind of turn, but this is obviously a replay, and that's where we saw the smoke, and Fernando Nito just making huge contact there with, I believe, the Team HSK Mercedes, and just completely turning the car around. The damage looks like it's come back, and he's received the bumper back, but I think he's definitely got some damage on that car. And then obviously the likes of Julian Theiss in the Andromeda Racing team, I feel like he got that damage quite a while ago, which is why we're struggling to find where it's happened. He's obviously rear-ended a car at some part of the track, because, I mean, that's an entire lap back. And as we can see, there we go. We finally got a bumper back on Julian Theiss, so it means we are possibly going to see some kind of contact. Was it late on the brakes starting to turn number 1? There is a couple of cars slowing ahead. Was he possibly rear-ended and then pushed into another car? We'll wait and see. So it looks like turn 1 was clean for the Andromeda. And as they progress a little bit further, we'll have to wait and see where this damage may have persisted for the car here of Julian Theiss, the German driver, and that's unfortunately going to really wear him down on the straights and the corners. A little bit of wear damage, which is not what you want. And here it comes. I'm assuming it's going to come here into... Okay, it looked like it was going to be a late dive, but that was a good overtake. My goodness! And a jump from the Aston Martin, and that's where the bumper got clipped off. Rising Panda of Jason Keddy, and he just completely mounts the curb as they head up towards the Lesmos, and he has made a critical error there as early on into this race, and that's where the damage has come from for the Andromeda. Let's have a second look at this. I believe he clips the first sausage, and then the second just throws him off into the sand. It looks like he took no damage really from that one. So unfortunately, Andromeda, the only car out there that took the most amount of damage out on the grid, and will try and recover this race with what is left of it. Very unfortunate there for those couple drivers.
This is interesting. This is one of the Team Racing Point Lamborghinis. I think this is one of the Pro-Am 1 cars. Yeah, it's not one of the leading 2, but he's slowly been working his way up the order. Andrea has slowly been trying to join his squad, who are currently comfortably out in front. Still got the Mercedes behind him though, but it's really frantic here as he's got a row of Delta Racing cars ready to pounce when they eventually catch on to the back of him. But the Delta Racer cars ended up together, and now they have to work together to try and work their way forward as best they possibly can. And this is probably a good opportunity to tow one another, just try and get into a rhythm, try and get into a flow of the race and see how the strategy pans out. But the Lamborghini here looking like it's getting a little bit closer onto the brakes than the Mustang. Obviously a big heavy car. The Mustang has a lot to stop, but the Delta Racing GTD car of Douglas there getting much better on the brakes and on the throttle than the Lambo, but lost out in traction. And it's just ebbing and flowing a little bit here, Tristan. The cars, obviously, they seem to find a little bit of a rhythm going on, and then as soon as they make one mistake, that's it. Your rhythm's kind of just taken away, and it's really difficult at that point to just clear the heads, get yourself back on pace and try and work your way forward. And that's a lot of what the Delta Racing squad guys have to do at the minute. They just need to get their head down. And the Mustang has made a mistake on the exit of the second chicane. This now allowed the Lamborghini up the inside. Can they get the job done? The Team Racing Point car does go through. Now can the Delta Racing car now also make a move right on the back bumper of the Mustang of the Kronos car? But the Lamborghini not so good on the straights, as he's got a monstrous of cars looking to attack at Ascari, as the Delta cars one by one looking all over the back of this train. This is really starting to congest up quite a bit, and it's going to allow possibly the Rising Panda car behind. Also, I don't think the Rising Panda car is in this fight, but the On Pace car behind as well, to just all congest up, and the Delta Racing with the flash of lights clearly wants this Mustang either out of the way or to get the job back done on the Lamborghini. But as again, the Lamborghini not the best run through Parabolica, but I think it's safer now as the Delta Racing BMW into the slipstream of the Mustang. I would say they're fairly even on pace with straight line, but because of the slipstream advantage that the Mustang has from the Lambo and the BMW right behind it, it's gonna be a bit of a stalemate. But the BMW much later on the brakes and just misses the corner completely, bouncing over the curb, and will have to concede the position back as the other Mustang, the Kronos Mustang, there he is. He'd been passed by one of the other Delta racing cars, and a little bit too late on the brakes there, Tristan.
Yeah, the Delta boys definitely had a bit of a plan coming into turn one there. You saw that the second Delta car behind also decided to take a dive, and in my personal opinion, just a bit too much desperation being shown there for Douglas Souza, currently the leading car, and my goodness, that was close to absolutely smacking into the backside of that Mustang. So I don't think he really had much of a choice. I think he slammed the brakes there, but just a little bit too late to try and avoid the consequence of the sausage curbs, and so he had to give that position back. So Douglas Souza doing everything in his power to get back, and I think the flashing of the lights, especially coming for the Delta Racing car, there's the Chrono Sim Sports up ahead is in a different class. He's in a slightly lower class compared to Delta Racing GTD for Douglas Souza. He wants to try and get up towards Enzo Alquini, his other teammate, up in 12th position, as they'll be in the same class, and that Chrono Sim Sport car currently in the middle of it in the Pro-Am class, and so just getting a little bit in the way there. This is one of the other Andromeda Racing cars in 19th position now, the one that I believe has had a bit of a better race in terms of keeping their bumpers on. The other car, unfortunately, with Thijs in the car, not having the best of time a little bit further down, but hopefully that team in general can continue to try and recover a little bit of pace. All right, Souza, this is your second attempt at it now. Let's hope it's a little bit cleaner. Yeah? So he's going to be on the backside again of the Kronos, and he does have a teammate up ahead who could possibly start to slow the Mustang down a little bit. So I'm looking to see a bit of team play coming in here from the Delta Racing. And so let's have a look and see what happens as they head down towards turn one, number one's braking point. The 150 board is passed, and so the cars will be fully on the brakes now, and it looks like they'll all navigate neatly. Just not enough, though, for that BMW driver, for Souza to get up ahead. And unfortunately, he will have to sit down in 14th position, still remaining behind that Mustang for the time being, trying to find a way around here and get up towards his teammate of Enzo Alquini, and hopefully the two of them can push further on in the pro class, but it is proving to be quite difficult. Great defense as well, I've got to say, coming in there from Enzo de Moraes Belay. He's really doing a good job in the Chrono Sim Sport car, and then obviously nearly on pace is just on the backside now, and you can see in the background there that we might have a bit of an overtake coming in. Indeed we do, and Douglas Souza is going to get a bit of an overtake on Chrono Sim Sport. A poor exit for the Mustang, and what a great move. And it's the same for the Sahara in the background that I was talking about. That's a move up there from Ian Lawrence. He moves up ahead of Fabian Schmidberger in the nearly on pace car, so two overtakes in one corner there. Great stride coming from a couple of our drivers here as the rest aim to move ahead in this race, and the rest of the cars behind will all follow in the same formation, trying to get as many overtakes as they possibly can. On board with Matthias Costa. This is all the way at the top spot here in the Rosso Esports car. On the backside of the secondary Team Racing Point car, Alessio Doppio, who's unfortunately gotten gapped by 3.5 seconds already to his teammate. So he's been isolated here. And so Rosso Esports, if they do want to attack, now is their chance. 3/10 to the car up ahead. Hopefully we can see some action for the second spot in this race.
I say this Mercedes of the Rossa car has really done a fantastic job of just sticking to the back of this Lamborghini. The Team Racing Point cars have been the cars to beat this season, and the fact that this Mercedes-Benz is able to just stick to the back of him at the minute, number 38, just doing everything they possibly can at the minute. Obviously, the lead is extending out in front, the leading Lambo pulling away quite comfortably, but it's so far so good. Looking for the Mercedes to try and at least split these two, because Rosso are looking to maybe stop the Team Racing Point domination here at their home circuit of the Lamborghini here at Monza. and I believe the team are Italian as well, so this is kind of like a home race for them as well. But Bravo Snow just dropped off the back of them, so it is really a three-way fight at the minute for the lead. Obviously 3 hours is still a long way to go, and traffic is now starting to play a little bit of a factor. As you can see there, the leading Lamborghini just being held up as the other two come working their way through. But that Mercedes, though, Tristan, it does look very stable and look very compliant at the minute. It is doing everything the roster guys want it to do, and I think it's starting to become a little bit of a headache for the 16 car.
Yeah, definitely is starting to become a bit of a headache there. Alessio Doppio is wanting to try and keep this gap extended from the Rosso Esports car. And I mean, talking about that car as well from the Spa 24-hour, hyper competitive as well in that red Mercedes. And we saw them really putting pressure on a couple of our drivers, including the Ronin PT in 5th in that previous round. And so a great amount of pressure and stability coming in from the Rosso Esports team. Let's hope they can continue the stride, though, for the remainder of this race. We've already gone through almost about half an hour, and that's how quick these endurance races go. You don't realize how time flies until we are already at the end of it, and very, very different from what we saw in that massive 24-hour clock in the previous round. It is but a mere 2.5 hours. This was the leg end of it in the previous round, but in this race, it is just the start of the inaugural 3 hours here of round number 3 of the GT Endurance Cup Europe, as we'll continue to watch for any kind of overtakes we see up and down the pack. So far, from what I can see on our timings tower, we do have a couple of our biggest movers and our biggest losers so far in the race. And unfortunately, our biggest loser at the moment does look to be the DSP Esports racing team of Francesco Manuel Arena, who currently is 7 spots down in this race. Currently, for your top spots, it is going to be Summit Esports for Lucas Santos with 5 spots up in this race. So a couple of drivers have really found some pace, and unfortunately, we've received some information from our producer that we do have a full course yellow coming in about 5 or so seconds. So the drivers will be forced to a halt and will have to slow down here. We're officially in full course yellow, and there we go. You can see it at the top side of your screen. We'll have to try and have a look to see what on earth has caused the full course yellow. Usually it's only for something quite severe that has blocked the track or caused some kind of incident that stopped the driving out on circuit. So our producer in the background, there's somebody on the right hand side of the track. I do see a 296 completely stopped there, so I wonder what's happened in the background. There we do see him all the way in the background. Yeah, this is on board though with the rusty spatulas of Johan Mati. And he has another one, so definitely not that one with the rusties. He has a different one. This is the Ferrari, and this is actually the Ferrari I just spoke about being one of the lowest drop downs. That is looks like a bit of a damaged Ferrari already. Quite a lot of bouncing coming on that Ferrari. So I wonder if something's happened there. But this is going to be on the outside here with the Just for Speed on the left-hand side. Did they make contact? And my goodness, that is huge. Oh my goodness, the left-hand side of that Ferrari is absolutely destroyed. Suspension and cosmetic is going to be through the roof in terms of charges there. And for the Benicio Racing team, that was Bram Ertz in the car who just did not get it yet. So who's at fault? And we'll have to watch for the drifting there. And unfortunately, looks like the 296 just started closing off a gap there. The Merc was definitely holding on to the solid line, and just nowhere the Merc driver could go to. And so that's where our full course yellow has come into. We'll get one more angle here to have a look at it. So on the curbing line, the Merc just gets completely floored on the right-hand side. And that is huge, huge damage coming in for the Flemish driver there. And unfortunately, that team is going to be all the way down in the gutters now, down 39th position in this race. And they will have to serve quite a severe time penalty in the pit lane to get all those repairs done. And so there we go, full course yellow. Not even half an hour to pass in this race, and we've seen some kind of full course yellow.
Yeah, we only just got into the first half an hour of this race, and already here at Monza we have produced a full course yellow. We were talking about this before we even started the show, didn't we, Tristan, that Monza was going to offer some harder and somewhat desperate racing at times, but full course yellows and safety cars are definitely something that was going to be high on the list, and we got our first one of the session. And yeah, for me, that looked like it was all on the Ferrari's fault there, and obviously being the AM driver, just a little bit of probably like knowledge and confidence going up against the Mercedes, and just drifted over unnecessarily, and contact was made, and their race was effectively ruined now, as The Mercedes will continue on racing while they have to serve quite a large damage penalty. But what this does do is allow drivers to have a moment to kind of let the adrenaline calm down for a second, get their head clear, figure out what the plan is, maybe a bit of fuel save if they can, to try and get themselves into a certain pit window that they want to get to. But we are just going to be waiting until we go green and racing once again. But as you can see, it is still a team at Racing Point leading the way with a 1-2, but the 19 and the 16 in that order, with the Rosso Esports in third place, and Bravo Snow in fourth, then the DCS Racing Blue in that fifth place position, with Virtue Competitioners in that P6. And then Quad Dash Racing P7. P8 is the Just 4 Speed leading car at the minute, with Team Racing Point 27 in 9th and Ronin PT in 10th place position. And then you've got the Onslaught at Delta Racing cars. Although there was 3 of them, we have one missing by the looks of things. I don't know, the 12 car may have come into the pits and try and get out of the traffic a little bit. Would you think, Tristan, this is a great opportunity for cars to get in, try and find a clear spot on circuit? I mean, it's effectively a free stop, isn't it, with cars trundling around a little bit slower? You could gain massively here.
Yeah, you definitely can gain quite massively here, and especially in full course yellow, getting that pit stop done and dusted, although it is very early. That is the only thing to consider, because pitting now means that you'll effectively have to pit again at a very awkward time later on in this race, possibly around the an hour and a half mark. And so it's going to leave quite a lot of dead space at the end of those 2 pit stops, where you still might have to serve an additional pit stop. So maybe something for the drivers to try and avoid. It is a good strategy if the full course yellow is a little bit closer to a valid pit stop window. In terms of what you mentioned about the Delta Racing GTD, it does look like Douglas Souza did jump into the box sometime. He's down at 11th overall, 21st overall, 11th in class. So he's definitely dropped off from the top spots, and so we'll have to see how he can be competitive in the background to try and work his way back up towards his team members. But for the time being, still under full course yellow conditions. We'll get the go ahead from our side once that full course yellow is ending, and then we can go racing once again. Usually they last anywhere from 2 to 3 laps, so let's hope that we are coming up towards the closing side of it in this race, because slow racing around the circuit like this, where no one's allowed to overtake, is technically not racing, because no one's allowed to overtake each other. So let's hope it does come to an end soon. And there we go. We do officially have it. It's very abrupt, and it happens randomly, but it does look like our full course yellow is going to be coming to an end. It is officially green flag racing, and that big Mercedes behind of Rosso was on the marks of it and is already trying to put the pressure on Rosso Esports team. So the Rosso Esports team behind the Team Racing Point Red here, and just not enough to get ahead. Good reaction time coming in from the Team Red, and they've been able to keep themselves just up ahead of the Rosso car, who looked quite aggressive on launch, and to get themselves ahead. The top 5 all pretty much within a good attacking distance of each other there. Bravo Snow of Thiago Melo about 5 seconds off currently of the likes of Rosso Esports, and the DCS Racing Blue of Ethan Davies also a bit further behind as well. So a bunch of racing that we've got to potentially be shown here on the stream for all of you watching from home in the virtual grandstand. Let's hope to get some action here in the top 3 to see how things are going. We regularly keep our eyes throughout the grid though to see where our possible best attacks are. I'm seeing down in 25th, the 967 iRacing team is getting immense pressure from the Ronin PT Red down in 25th position. They've actually just lost, they actually just got ahead of the Rusty Spatulas. So lots of change-ups coming in there. And as we go on board, this is the Ronin PT team of Nuno Magalhães in 10th position. And so currently the leading Ronin PT team in the pro class. And now the 967 iRacing team get ahead of Summit Esports, who Summit Esports looks like they're dropping quite drastically. I'm assuming a pit stop has been called for that team. We'll get the indicator on the right-hand side if they have jumped in, although it could possibly even be a bit of an error coming from that team, as they are losing drastic amount of time out in circuit. So I hope that this is a pit stop for the Summit Esports down in 26, and I hope that it's not just some kind of time loss where they've made some kind of error. There we do see the Summit Esports car. That car has not pitted, so something's happened to the Summit Esports car. They've lost 2 positions just in the last couple of corners, so something definitely went wrong there. Wonder what's happened, and he has indeed stopped. So 2 laps into his stint only, but so traveling down there in 26th position. Let's see how he can recover himself throughout this race. The rest of the cars out on circuit all trying to maintain different gaps between each other. And let's have a look and see how this is going to work between all of them. The Impact Sim Sport just behind of Richie Chahan. He's in the big Mustang, the big blue Mustang there behind the Sim Esports. He's also looking to potentially put some pressure on there. And there we do see there's Benicio Racing might be coming out of the pit box shortly. That's the Ferrari 296 who suffered the damage before the full course yellow. Hopefully we get to see them out on track shortly or soon enough. They are unfortunately the final driver out on grid in 39th position. So there we do officially see it. They are officially out of the pit lane and back out on track, but over 4 laps behind due to the repairs. And unfortunately, any chance to challenge anybody else has come to an abrupt end there for the Benicio Racing team. And for now, they will just have to work their way of just making it towards the checkered flag line. But for now, there's action up at the top because Rosso Esports continues to challenge on the Team Racing Point Red.
They do indeed, and for a moment there it looked like the traffic was going to go in the advantage of the Rosso car, but in the end they managed to work their way through, and the Lamborghini now starting to stretch its legs a little bit through Ascari, but we know that Mercedes can hunt that Lamborghini back down. But as this is all happening between these two, just quietly minding their own business is that Ford Mustang of the Bravo Snow car, just bit by bit, just eating into the gap of the two in front. In a minute it's going to turn from a two-way fight into a 3-way fight. So at this moment in time, the Rosso guys need to start thinking about, well, right, we need to start making a move here, trying to either send up the inside or try and think strategy, because at the minute that Mustang is just sitting there and just minding its own business, being a bit like a shark, just lingering in the water, showing its fin, saying, hey, I'm still here, I'm ready to come and pounce whenever you two make a mistake. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this all works out, but the Rosso guys need to really start thinking about making a move on the Lambo. But as all this is going on, it is allowing the lead Team Racing Point car to just extend the gap, pull away, start to really eke themselves a gap, and the guys just have to try and get back into a rhythm again after they've had a bit of a break, a bit of a slow run through here. As we see a couple of cars going at it. It's got the Porsche and the Lamborghini going at it. The Sahara Porsche looking to go down the inside of the Prism Lamborghini and gets the job done. A beautiful move there into turn 1, classic move. Get a better run out of Parabolica, down into 1 and through they go. Next target for them will be the DSP Esports Racing team, and they are slowly working their way up the order. But it is about getting back into that rhythm as we're now on board with the Flight Level Racing, looking to attack the Rising Panda GTEC team, and the Mustang just trying to get onto terms with the cars around. The Ferrari as well just in the background. It's a good little scrap between these 5 as it all starts to condense behind the Aston Martin, and like I said, everyone just trying to get back into a flow and rhythm here as we get past the half an hour mark. We still got 2.5 hours still to go for these guys, and they'll start to feel like the race is coming to them, or they need to start working on their strategies, feel like where the car's feeling strong, learn around the other drivers that they are racing at the minute. A lot of drivers also opting to take the opportunity to pit, so we are going to have an interesting sequence of pit stops coming up soon, and strategies where people are going to be on or off strategies, and we'll just have to see how it all pans out. But the car that's had probably the most drama and the most action is the car we are on board with now, which is the Just for Speed, a Mercedes-Benz, punching above its weight, I would say, up in the pro class, fighting some of the pro drivers. And the Mercedes-Benz has looked very strong here at Monza as we head down towards turn number 1. And the BMW once again just holds off the inside, and the Just for Speed car will have to think of another way around. And then the third Team Racing Point car just behind them in the Pro-Am class. So it's all starting to get a little bit calmer here at Monza, but the action is still coming in thick and fast, as I just see the Sahara car has passed the DSP Esports Racing team as well. So the Sahara GT Motorsports car is on the move as we are still on board watching this great fight for the Just for Speed Racing team. As we now head into the replay, as we have got the pass, and that was the pass earlier with the Sahara, Porsche and the Prism Lamborghini as we head down towards turn number 1. Once again, the Porsche just had a better run out Parabolica, got the inside. The Prism Motorsport guys just gave him enough an opportunity to go down the inside, and pretty much job done as they head into the braking zone. The only thing that could have stopped the Porsche then was them missing the brakes, hit the apex, and out of the corner they go, leading that position. But it has been exciting and great passes so far as well as you go back to the Just for Speed car going through Ascari.
Yeah, great work there coming in from Just for Speed, and obviously also the Sahara making that overtake happen and stick, and we'll continue to try and get the pace up throughout the rest of this race. And let's have a look as to what the Ronin can do. This is the Ronin PT in 48th, chasing onto the backside of Lucas de Abreu. Obviously, that's not going to be for direct position between these two, as they are quite distant between each other, and they are also completely part of different classes. So the timings that you see up on the screen, up on the left-hand side, are in terms of class timing and not overall timing. So you should be seeing a 29-second gap between these cars, but it's 29 seconds between their classes at the moment. So we'll have to wait and see how that looks out for the rest of the drivers. So the Ronin PT will be trying to get ahead of the rest of the cars up in front to work their way up to Quadash Racing of Serena Tahar. That's the next car up on the list in the pro class. That's in 7th. This is the Just for Speed again of Pascal Eckhart, and looks like he's making a swift inside move here. This is against the Quadash Racing car. It's different classes, but nonetheless, it's a position on track. And my goodness, this AM class car of the Just for Speed is not in the right division. They are challenging Pro-Ams and Pros left, right, and center. And another one claimed on the board there for the Just for Speed car. What a great move up on the boards for Pascal Eckhart. I got to tell you, this driver, the German driver, is on absolute fire here today to move his way up further up the standings board here. There's no competition for him at the moment. I mean, the closest car to him from the Delta Racing is a decently far, a decent lap amount of distance behind, and so he can kind of work quite well with it. There you indeed see the Delta Racing car of Enzo Alquini. That's the 31 of the pro. So he's currently fighting with the Ronin PT of Nuno Magalhães, just up ahead of him. So those two will be fighting it out on circuit, and then obviously Lucas de Abreu up in front. So that Ronin PT still stuck within a bit of a Delta sandwich, and then just behind is the Chrono Sim Sports, also trying to work his way throughout the board here for the time being. We are 2 hours and 20 minutes left down on this race, and such a short amount of time, if you have to ask me, that we've got left to go in this race. Not a lot of time here for our drivers to be making meticulous decisions, and so we'll have to wait and see, especially when it comes to pit stop strategies. It's going to start to come in ever so shortly, with a lot of our drivers will be jumping into the box to get their swap-ups done, especially with the top 5 who will be changing around orders. Mirko Usicic still leads the lead for the Pro-Ams in 6th position, but first overall for the 189. And then obviously we already know that Just for Speed of Pascal Eckhart leads it for the AM category for the time being. This is on board with the DSP Sports Racing team of Michael Karadek. That's in 18th. Someone's lost it. That's the Simmer Sports of Tim Kraus. And again, in through Parabolica he goes, just taking it a little bit too sharp. And especially as the Parabolic is a little bit of a double apex corner, with it being so round and long, is that if you do make an error on the first half of it, never mind, that was not even a self-inflicted error. He's made contact with one of the Mercedes. Yeah, we'll get a second helicopter view here of it, just to see who could have possibly been at fault. That it looks like one of the Andromeda cars. I think it is Emma Ryu, who currently sits 25th and just on the inside line, tapping out the Mustang on the left of Simmet. And unfortunately, they will be dropping off. Tim Kraus does rejoin the circuit, thankfully, quite safely. He has a slightly outside view of it. Unfortunately, not able to see too much of the contact as they're blocked off by one of the other Mercedes drivers. But unfortunately for Simmer Esports of Tim Kraus, now has to work back up all the overtakes he's made, and so now he's got Dennis Blocker up ahead in 28th position, and will need to swiftly try and make his way to try and get some overtakes done and dusted. Let's hope to see some action there for the Andromeda as well in 26th position, but Simmet will need to work their way up for the recovery drive here. Back on board with the Delta Racing of Enzo Alquini. This is on the backside, as I already mentioned, on the Ronin PT of Nuno Magalhães. And these two, they are in the sandwich still, and they can definitely work as a team here for the red Delta behind to get up ahead, but they've got to make it work shortly before they start getting overrun here. So now going up on the outside line, the Ronin PT car looking to try and break a little bit of a slip from the car up ahead, but just on the backside, and my goodness, it's close. It's almost a bump draft actually from Enzo Alquini. Is he going to break out though? No, he doesn't, and he stays within the slip. So right now they're just keeping the Ronin PT car in the sandwich as long as they can. It seems just no overtake coming so far from the likes of Enzo, and he just remains dormant. But in the background, he does have to watch out though, because the Krona Sim Sport behind the other Enzo de Moraes Belay will eventually start to catch up here. So he's just got to watch out for that one around the circuit. For the rest of your drivers though, everybody has distanced out quite nicely. The other Ronin though, or the Ronin PT Red of Diogo Ricardo, does indeed get up into 23rd now, making an overtake on the 967 iRacing team. I'm thinking we'll probably start to see a couple more pit stops coming in here or there between all of our drivers, but for the time being, the Delta Racing GT still trying to push on the Ronin PT up ahead.
We are indeed, and the interesting thing here is the leading Delta car for me is the AM car that's leading this group. As we see now, the Ronin PT car having to go defensive as they head up towards the Ascari chicane, and there we go, the Delta Racing car finally finds a way through on the McLaren. But it'll be interesting to see how he then tackles towards Parabolica and the first chicane, because for me it seemed like the McLaren seemed to be a bit stronger through the chicane, so maybe the McLaren's thinking to come back at them at the chicane. We shall see. But the way this is all working out, the Delta Racing team are in an interesting position here, because I think the leading pole car was of the three has now pitted, so maybe strategy for them is like, right, okay, clear window, let's get out of this traffic, get our speed up and running again, as we see the Mercedes making a move on the Porsche there of the 967 iRacing team, and through they go, and there is the other McLaren of the Ronin PT squad. But yeah, strategy's now going to start to be kicking in. People are going to start to want to try and find some clean air or try and get through people to try and work for the strategy. And as we can see here, the Prism, a Lamborghini looking to go the inside of the Ferrari of the DSP Esports Racing team. And as well, while you're in different classes, this is a pro driver, the Prism, a Lamborghini. He's got the Delta pro car behind him as well. So they're just wanting to just bit by bit work their way through their classes that they're not racing against to try and get some clean air, get on the pace that they're used to. And we'll find that with Monza as well, a lot of people have driven and practiced Monza a heck of a lot, so the classes end up being a lot closer, reducing to pace, as like I said, most of us have driven Monza a lot, so the pace difference becomes significantly shorter, and these Pro-Am and the Pro-Am and Am drivers can basically fight the pros because they've got a lot of knowledge around this circuit, as we see with the Just for Speed Mercedes-Benz has really showed their pace in that Am class, and not only just in the Ams, really giving the pros a major headache as they head towards the Parabolica. But the Ronin PT car hasn't given up on the Delta BMWs. They're still there. He's still wanting to try and work his way through into Parabolica they go. But once again, the Delta Racing squad has their AM car leading the group, and like I said, the AMs are just looking quite comfortable here.
Yeah, definitely are looking nice and comfortable down in 23rd position. And a big thing as well to mention for the Just for Speed Mercedes of Pascal Lecott, they really do have good pace amongst the top blocks of it, but unfortunately a frequent thing we've seen throughout the season is throughout the remainder of the race, they do just tend to slightly get a little bit inconsistent, and we saw it in the Spa 24, we saw it at Red Bull Ring, where they just lost the consistency towards the end of it, and unfortunately threw away the huge lead that they were able to build up. So let's hope that Pascal Lecott and the team at Just for Speed have got a bit of a better mindset coming into Monza, as we do go side by side here. That's between the likes of the Prison Motorsports car versus the Delta Racing of Douglas Souza. So the two of them putting quite a decent bit of pressure on each other, and that is indeed for position, not only on track but also in class here. And so it is quite important for either of these drivers to end up on top. So this fight is going to matter quite significantly for them, and it looks like the Prism Motorsports Pro car has been able to hold on there from Lucas Huberger, and Douglas Souza will try and work his way up on the backside here to try and mount an attack. Up on the inside, he's going to go over the first Lesmo. Is he going to have enough for it though? He's not, and contact made yet again from the Delta Racing GTD. Again, I think just too aggressive coming from Douglas Souza there. I don't think that there was enough space to make that overtake, and he's completely taken out the Prism car. You can see it from the background here. He dives from quite a long shot there. He's not even wheel to wheel and just nudges his nose up on the inside line there. And unfortunately, the Prism has got nowhere to go off on the outskirts there. So very unfortunate in that regard. Here's another angle to have a look at it, and just to see whereabout this incident happened. So you can see on the inside line that, just nowhere. The prison doesn't even have time to turn out, and he's already been made contact from the rear side. So that's just an unfortunate one. And so the Prism Motorsports car all the way now has dropped down, not only from the Delta GTD, but also the Unitronic Fisher Motorsports car. So losing out to them as well. And so we'll have to work up those places yet again. This is back up to the top of the Team Racing Point car, who has now pitted out. It's no longer Gabriele Rossoni. It's now Andrea Paletti who's in the car trying to get his team back up at the top. Apologies, incorrect Team Racing Point. The original, there's actually 3. Apologies. I'm seeing it now. I thought there was only 2. This is the 3rd Team Racing Point, the Pro-Am car, with Andrea Paletti currently holding off 9th position. I thought that this was a bit of a pit stop drop down from Gabriele Rossoni. He still leads this race in the number 19. This is the number 27 Lamborghini, and trying to work his way up towards his brothers in arms, up in 1st and 2nd, but he is in a different class here, so necessarily isn't fighting them, but he's fighting the Velge Competitions car, who is just a little bit further up the road there. He's just up ahead of the Just for Speed car, and so we could potentially see a battle here for the Pro-Am leads. There you do see the other Lamborghini just up ahead as they head up towards the Ascari here, and so hopefully we can see a bit of action happening there. Quad Ash Racing of Serena Tahar on the backside of Pascal Eckhart again, and these two have been back and forth for the time being, with Just for Speed now still holds the lead here between these two, but hopefully trying to get back at it is the Quad Ash car, even though they're in a different class and category here. And so let's have a look. Sorry, not category. They're all in GT3s, yes, the same category, just a different class coming in between those two drivers. And then a couple of the Deltas still in the background, but the Ronin PT still trying to have a bit of a battle there out on circuit. The rest of the drivers all performing what they need to do out on circuit. That's a run wide for the Just for Speed, and he's going to lose out to Team Racing Points. Andrea Paletti there, he's completely lost out and made an error, and this is what we're talking about. The consistency needs to stay up for this Mercedes if they want to render positive results, but going completely wide on the exit of Parabolica here, trying to save the car from a spin, and you can see the car almost loses it into the wall, but good catch there to keep the car out of it. But they have lost out to the Team Racing Point of Andrea Paletti. Not only them, but now also outside of the replay, they've just lost out to Delta Racing's Lucas de Abrio, and that's for position. So they've actually just lost the lead of the AM class here to the Delta Racing car of Lucas de Abrio, and that is going to be a huge move up there for the Delta Racing. They're going to be absolutely thrilled about that one. And here you can see the replay of the overtake, just losing all his top speed on the straight there, and that was a clean and quick overtake there for Lucas de Abrio on the outside. Makes it look easy, and into the AM lead he will go. Now with the team Just for Speed having to try and work back at it from all the positions they were able to gain over the past couple of laps, they've unfortunately lost out and will need to rework for all those spots.
All that hard work undone, and I think that's the difference between the pros and the pro-ams and AMs. Obviously the pros will be consistently on the pace, they'll be with it, they'll be making sure that little mistakes like that are not happening, and just for Speed guys there, just a tiny little error, little mistake, and all undone in a matter of seconds. But they need to get back on the pace. They are still in the top 2 of their class and well ahead of them 3rd place as well. So it is now going to be a proper scrap between the AM category cars of the Delta Racing team and the Just for Speed, and you can already see the Mercedes-Benz wanting to work his way back through the order, and he is right up the backside of the class rival that he has. A good run through Parabolica as they now head down towards the chicane, and just ahead of him as well as the I think it's the Team Racing Point looking to make a move or lap in the car by the looks of things. But the Mercedes in the slipstream, in the tow. The Delta Racing car defends the inside. Mercedes has to go to the outside, tries to swoop his way around but can't do so there, gets back into sequence there and just loses out on exit there. So the Delta Racing car there just being a little bit more patient, a little bit more calm, and gains a little bit of an advantage there as they carry their way through the curve of Grande as they head down to the second chicane. It's a little bit of a flash, like I said, the Mercedes driver obviously wanting to try and gain that position back, work his way back up the order, had a buffer with many cars between them and now stuck behind there. Rival car, and just behind them as well is the McLaren of the Ronin PT. They've got their hands full with the other Delta Racing car, so you've got one Delta Racing defending and then the other one attacking. So the Delta Racing team really starting to come into a bit of a flow, into a little bit of a opportunity to get some good positions and good points, and still the flash of the lights here from the Mercedes-Benz. And sometimes that can work. As he goes to the inside, really forces the opportunity, and down the inside will the Mercedes go into the Ascari chicane. Takes a lot of curb there side by side, and the BMW holds the position. The Mercedes, they give each other racing room. The Delta racing car goes wide, but gets the run down towards Parabolica to defend the inside. Tried to side draft, does the Mercedes-Benz, and these AM cars really going at it, fighting tooth and nail here for this first place position in class. The Mercedes around the outside of Parabolica and gets the job done. He's going to be a little bit compromised though on exit down towards turn number 1, but he manages to get the job done and goes straight into a defensive position. And following behind them is the McLaren and the other Delta racing car BMW as they head down towards the chicane. Once again, has the Mercedes held onto this position or not as he head into the braking zone? Can the BMW brake later? It's going to give it a go. Tries to get alongside but can't get it done there, and that's just going to put him under pressure now from the Ronin PT car of the McLaren. The 48 now looking to make a move through the Curva Grande, but not able to get far enough alongside. If he has a better run through here, might be able to tap the inside. And the Delta racing car gone from attacking and now defending once again, and into the second chicane they go. And the McLaren gets very, very close to the back bumper of the BMW. A great sequence of corners there, and I'm massively impressed by both AM drivers managing to wed their way through the Ascari chicane with barely any contact between them.
Yeah, barely any contact between them, and quite a lot of action still out on our circuit between the rest of the drivers. Currently on board with that Ronin PT, still so stuck in a bit of a sandwich here between the rest of the drivers, and it is intense for that Ronin PT. I mean, imagine being surrounded by enemies that are all working together the entire time to try and absorb you throughout the field. And unfortunately for the Ronin PT, that is in the current situation, but they've done a great job at keeping their head above the water here with all the BMWs around. The Prism Motorsports Pro of Lucas Huberger does indeed get ahead of the Andromeda Racing, but now loses out again down in 21st. So the two of them are swapping around quite drastically, and now actually going to lose out all the way. So the Prism Motorsports Pro car of Lucas Huberger does drop about 5 positions, but I'm assuming that's going to be due to a pit stop that has actually started, and indeed I believe it is, as I'm not seeing a pit stop timer next to their name, so a bit of an odd one. And Ronin PT with Nuno Magalhães in 10th position, currently still holding it out for the pros, for the Ronin PTs, and then the Ronin PT Red a little bit further behind after their pit stop strategy has commenced, down in 24th position. So holding it out now just for speed up ahead. This is a bit of a battle that's currently happening with the Chrono Sim Sports and the Sahara XGT of Ian Lawrence Brown, and then nearly on pace just a bit further behind. These three have also been added for quite some time this race. 2 of the Delta racing drivers have jumped into the box though, and so that's going to prove to be quite a bit of a switch around. Hopefully that the Ronin PT, who looks like he's finally gotten out of the sandwich, indeed he has, and only 1 Delta remains behind him now, but he's got a bit of a gap to breathe on there. And let's have a look to see how this is going to work out for the rest of our drivers here. The Chrono Sim Sports car still trying to work his way around the circuit here with the Sahara, and Sahara just up ahead, and their Ronin PT there, we do indeed see him. A little bit of lap traffic that they've got to try and get through. He's just on the backside here, they're just a speed car, obviously not for any direct class position, but on track position indeed. And so he's going to go trying to fight neck and neck with the Mercedes up in front there. He gets past one of the back markers, and now the Delta GT Racing of Enzo Alquini getting stuck behind there. And unfortunately, he's going to have to wait his turn to try and get past. You can see he's just in the back of this queue here, trying to get past that limping BMW, just unfortunately a little bit slower compared to the rest of them. And so we'll hope to see that the Delta Racing GT of Enzo Alquini can get past in a swift manner. Yeah, oh, that is a little bit wide there for Douglas Souza. Douglas Souza might be running this race solo, if I'm being honest with you. He's coming to the pit lane already and looks like he might be staying out, so maybe deciding to run this 3-hour all by himself here. Let's have a bit of a look though what's happened to Douglas Souza on the exit of Ascari. Possibly too much curb, and indeed it was. The sausage curbs gave him a bad hand and threw him out right side, and he went all over the gravel there. So that will also be a 2x incident logged to his incident points. And remember that if you do get too many incident points, you can be at risk of getting yourself a drive-through penalty, which is not something you want in a 3-hour race, because it means you've got to drive through the entire pit lane and lose a couple of positions due to the slowdown. So let's hope that doesn't happen to any of our drivers here in this 3-hour race. It's a very short race in retrospective of this series, and also a very short and simple track. It's not very difficult. I mean, it's not very easy, I would say, to get many track limits here. There's not many places where you can necessarily go off. It's quite simple to stay out on circuit, but there's a couple out there where you can possibly just run a tire over, and that will render you 2 X's on your incident point logs. Through turn 1 we go. That is aggressive racing coming in there from one of the Mustang drivers, I believe, the Summit Esports of Tim Kraus in the background. He's fighting it out with somebody. And the Project 91 now, this is Dennis Blocker. The Project 91 cars really not having their luck from the 24-hour. They just struggled quite a bit with the incidents all over the grid. And so let's hope that we can see some better results. Currently 18th overall, 14th in class for the Project 91. So again, quite far off the margin here for the pro class, and they really will need to start digging in here and working throughout the rest of the grid to try and make some moves, as we are about to get to that 2-hour mark. A full hour has gone by already, and the racing has been absolutely extraordinary so far. Let's hope to see the same stride of magic happening here between the rest of our drivers throughout the rest of the race. The pit stop strategies have officially happened for your top 7. They're all into the box at the moment, and it's all going to be who comes out at the end of the pit stops, who got into their pit box as fast as possible and as cleanly as possible. And we'll have to see who comes out on top between these 5. I'm assuming it's going to stay in the same order after they all jump out, but anything can happen in this race.
It can swap and change very quickly here, especially in pit stops. As you can see, the top 4 in this race, all in pit lane currently at the minute. Even the pretty much the whole leading top 10 up in there, and the leading Lambo, off they go, as does the following Lamborghini as well. So the 2 guys get the better stop, as I think the Prism Lamborghini as well also seem to have a better stop further back. So looks like the Lamborghinis have been a little bit either better on fuel or tires, whatever the strategy they've gone for. It seemed to have worked. Maybe they think, oh, as I see a car go flying straight on through the chicane there. I'm not sure which, it was the Mustang there. I think it's the Summit Mustang by the looks of things. Actually sent it through the chicane there, and has managed to readdress the positions they have gained. But we'll see why here, as he's in the slipstream of the Ronin PT McLaren as he goes down to the inside. Obviously you can see the leading Lamborghinis coming out of the pits, and oh, that was tight, and just missing their brakes straight on. And yeah, that's an easy cut there, and having to wait and give the positions back. But that would have been a complete and utter disaster if that Mustang had made contact with one of the Lamborghinis, the leading Lamborghinis. That's going to be a heart and mouth moment. But we are back on board with the 91 Porsche, who is now onto the rear of the 19 Team Racing Point Lamborghini, the leading Lamborghini. And right now the leader would really ideally not want too much pressure at the minute, want to keep that car behind, and just behind them as well as a Ronin PT car as well. So the leaders have come into the pits, they've made their stops, and as they've got themselves going again, they've ended up with a couple of cars around them that could be a little bit of a nuisance for them. But one thing I've also noticed as well here, Tristan, with all the pit stops come to a close for the leaders, the Rosso cars have lost out quite big here. They've ended up behind the Bravo Snow and the DSC Racing team as well, the Quad Dash Racing as well. They've ended up dropping down quite the order here, has the Rosso Esports car, as you see the Mustang go through the chicane, and there's also the 967 iRacing Porsche. But yeah, that red Mercedes-Benz has lost out massively here.
Yeah, the Rosso Esports just not getting their way, it seems, in this race, and the pit stop strategy is not working out there for that team, and obviously all the way down right now in 18th position overall is not going to do them well at all in terms of their classing and position. So let's hope to see a bit of change up there between those drivers, and hopefully the Rosso Esports team can try and recover themselves in this race. We'll have to wait and see how that's going to work out for them. The rest of the drivers all still going around circuit here. And somebody's off at the Team HSK. They've completely lost the car there. And unfortunately, the driver currently managing that car is Jacob Otto. and he's just lost it coming out of Lesmo 2. I wonder what's happened there with the AMG driver. He's clearly made an error on exit, and there's already the damage done. Lost the wing and lost the rear diffuser, so that's a huge aero damage on that Mercedes. Looks like he's just taken too much curb on the entrance here of Lesmo 2, and it's completely hopped the suspension there of the Mercedes, and actually it's he actually made contact. Never mind, not even going to be on the curb or self-inflicted error. That's contact with the quad ash car, and he's unfortunately been completely dispensed out to the left-hand side there. That is unfortunate news there for the team HSK. They've been doing so well to keep themselves on track, and just double contact actually from the BMW driver, and he falls all the way off the grid, and huge damage on the rear side of that car as well. And rear damage is always worse than front side damage. It's not it's not the 94 quad ash, maybe somebody else, similar livery though, and yeah, that's just unfortunate there for the team HSK. Jacob Otto is going to have to nurse that car back home, and so there we do indeed see him trying to make his way around the circuit. This is on board of the Rising Panda Racing team, the GTC team of Christian Kampfreger, and he's currently trying to work his way around circuit behind the Andromeda Racing team of Julian Theiss. And so let's see if they can switch things up between the two of them. And hopefully we can see some action coming in from the Rising Panda car. Just in the background, also the Unitronic Fisher Motorsports team feeling the pressure from the DSP Sports Racing team of Danilo Petty. Marek Gdansky, the driver inside that Unitronic car. So he's trying to hold out as much as he can. We are under 1 hour left to go, though, in this race. So, I mean, not 1 hour, sorry, under 2 hours left to go in this race. We've broken into the final 2 hours here. And so this is where the racing is going to start to become quite pressurized. The drivers have gotten their pit stop strategies well in here. And as we start to come towards the mid part of this race, this is where the drivers are going to want to try and render some good results. Somebody's off in turn number 1. What on earth has happened to that Sahara car? Ismail Laib in the number 397, the driver who had to start from the pit lane earlier on in this race, and something has happened into turn number 1. Why is he sitting there? That looks like a stop. There's no damage on that Porsche. Was there possibly some external hardware failure on that car? Maybe the brakes just held as he tries to make the corner and just completely stops. Oh, hard left lock on the wheel. So I wonder if something external on the rig has completely switched off or just no longer responding. And you can see he's trying to fix it there. Fortunately, he wasn't somewhere which could have led him off the track. And there you can see he's managed to restabilize it. So definitely some kind of external hardware issue that's happened there to Ismail Laib in the 397 Sahara car. So he's going to drop off quite drastically in this race. Unfortunate there to see for the Golden Porsche. They were doing so well climbing up the board, and now they will drop off after the pit stops and after the small error, and they'll have to try and work their way back up in this race to see if they can render some points.
A little bit of a control-alt-delete and away they go, but definitely not what you would want at this stage of the race. Just things start to get into a flow. I think they were also making quite headway through the pack as well, but once again, hardware just seems to kick in and sometimes can catch you when you least expect it, and it's an absolute nightmare when it goes wrong. But we're currently on board with the Kronos Ford Mustang, trying to hunt down the Just for Speed Mercedes-Benz just ahead of them as they head towards turn number 1. And been a difficult race for the Chrono cars. They've been kind of like in the midst of everything, but they're still in the top 20. 4th in class, but definitely been roughed up a little bit here, and I think strategies are interesting to see here. I don't know if drivers have decided to take tyres or not take tyres. I don't know if changing the tyres may extend the fuel time as well. Just it seems like there's very much a different strategies going on at the minute. For the moment in time, though, it is the Ronin PT McLaren that is leading this race currently at the minute, with the Delta Racing BMW in second, and in third is the Pax Sim Sport GT team as well. So those are your top 3 at the minute, but pit stops have been in place, and it was the Team Racing Point Lamborghinis that were leading the way as we come into a little bit of a quiet stage of the race. It's like the turn 1 BMW is quite close to the McLaren, currently only 6/10 behind them. That's quite a close fight with the Rising Panda as well. They're close to the back of the Flight Level Racing Mustang. It's 3/10 by the list of things, so it's going to be quite close for that scrap. You see there in the background, the Rising Panda is very quick through Ascari. and could possibly be an opportunity for them. But the Mustang of Kronos here looking to maybe get a move done on the Mercedes-Benz, but not quite close enough here as they exit the Parabolica. And this is where the racing now starts to really pay dividend. You got to be consistent, you got to be clean, and now you've got to just allow your strategy to work in its favor, as the Mercedes there still defending. As I look further back, the Rising Panda car did manage to get ahead of that Mustang, but the Kronos car though still can't find a way past on the Just for Speed Mercedes-Benz as they work their way through the Curva Grande.
Working their way through and seeing if they can make some overtakes on each other. Yeah, let's see what the Kronos car can do as we are slowly approaching the halfway mark of this race, and just showing you how fast time flies already as the Monza 3 hour is slowly coming towards the end. The Team HSK car is obviously in the pit lane at the moment, getting their damage fixed up for Jacob Otto after his minor bit of incidents that he had over there. It's Flo Bossen who's now in the car for the Kronos Sim Sports team. They're chasing onto the backside of the Just for Speed of Louis Fichtner in the German-based Mercedes up in front. And so let's see what that team can do. Team Racing Point Red, I believe we're on. Indeed it is, of Alessio Doppio in 7th, chasing onto the backside of the Project 91 car. Dennis Block has done a great job to get the Porsche up into the top 7 at the moment. Obviously things might be changing around with all the pit stop strategies, but the Project 91 cars have been well into the mid-pack throughout the entirety of the start of the race, and now looking to try and get their name up on the top spots of the board here, which we quite frequently were seeing in the Spa 24 hour before all the incidents that they had with a couple of other drivers. So let's hope that the Project 91 there of Dennis Blocker can keep himself ahead throughout the remainder of this race, and hopefully we can see some good results coming in after their unfortunate end in the Spa 24 hour all the way down at the bottom side of the grid. This is much better circumstances, much shorter of a race to go here, and hopefully we can see some good strides coming in from the Porsche team. They do obviously have Team Racing Point Red behind, a very aggressive Lamborghini team, and they are notoriously known, Team Racing Point Red, for being very good out on circuit, especially when it comes to team play. And just up the road is indeed the leading Team Racing Point, well, provisional pole of Vito Fatalino, who's now taken it away from Gabriel Rizzoni. So he stepped out of the car now for the rest of the race, and probably will be sticking in the car for the last bit of it, yeah, for Vito Fatalino. And so we'll have to see how that leads out for that team. It is indeed the Ronin PT car of Nuno Magalhães who now leads this race, but I believe he'll still have to come jump into the pit lane. Delta Racing GTD of Douglas Souza currently holds second, also will probably have to come into the pit lane, and so things will definitely be changing up here for our drivers in this race here at Monza for the GT Endurance Cup Europe round number 3. And still continuing to show us some incredible amounts of racing out on circuit. But waiting though to see if Team Racing Point Red is potentially going to make a dive, and up on the inside there will go now of the Project 91. Late move up on the inside, and unexpected for the Project 91. But what a great move that Alessio Doppio has been able to make there on Dennis Block, and will move up to try and chase onto his teammate up ahead of Vito Fatalino in the other Team Racing Point. So good work to get the team synergy going yet again. They are now once again no car separating the two of them, and they can continue to try and push their strides here. And hopefully we'll see some more action out on grid with the Team Racing Points trying to get themselves back up into pole position. Once the rest of our pro class drivers decide to jump into the box, that is when we will see some switch arounds coming from all of them. The rest of the drivers though will continue to try and put as much effort as they can here into continuing to prove those race results. And let's have a look and see how it's going to turn out for all of them throughout the remainder of this race. Still on board, though, this is with the other Team Racing Point of Andrea Poletti, and this is going to be the challenge for second in the Pro-Am Championship for the time being. The DSP Sports Racing team of Simone Garotti currently leads it out in P1, 11th overall, but Welsh Competitions of Luigi Caputi, they've obviously put it out and changed it away, and it's no longer the previous driver in that car. And an error on the exit there for Welch, and now on the inside is going to come Andrea Poletti, who makes a quick and swift overtake on the inside for the Team Racing Point, not the red version, but the Pro-Am version. The number 27 is going to get the overtake done and dusted, and they will move up to continue their stride into P number 2 for the Pro-Ams, hopefully trying to catch onto the backside of Simone Garotti in 11th overall. So this could be some good work for these drivers to try and get their ways through on the circuit, but lots of good fighting all across the board here for us to watch.
It has indeed, as the Lamborghinis are slowly starting to work their way back into a flow state here. And as the Rossa car was chasing down the leading Lamborghinis, it's slowly catching back up to the Pro-Am team at Racing Point car. So the Mercedes, one way or another, still seems to be fighting one or many different Lamborghinis of the team Racing Point, but they're slowly trying to figure out their strategy and where they fit in with their race at the minute at the time. But like you said, some still great action still to come. We're only now starting to get to the halfway stage of this race, and still to play for. Strategy is going to be key. It's going to be very interesting when it comes to the very end to see who is going to be where and how this all pans out. But at this moment in time, it is all we know is it's been absolute action, has been drama, and at the minute it's still the top 8, all still the pro drivers, but the Pro-Am drivers and Am drivers have been there or thereabouts, and giving the pro drivers something to think about as we head up to the second chicane. Now, still watching the Pro-Am team a Racing Point car as everything's just come to a little bit of a stalemate here. No real action out on track at the minute, as everyone currently is just getting into a rhythm, and by the looks of things as well, this is probably your closest fight on circuit. As I have a look at the Delta times, yeah, this is probably the closest fight on circuit at this moment in time. So this Lamborghini driver of the Welsh competitions are being hunted down by the Rosso Mercedes-Benz. They're also trying to just work their way back through their strategy and see if they can get themselves back onto the leading pace and leading group, as I just see obviously the timesheets are changing all the time for us, so a little bit of confusion for me sometimes, but either way, it's Parabolica we go through, and yeah, halfway stage of this race, Tristan, and it's I said just calm down a little bit, as Monza has now offered us a little bit of a stalemate here.
Yeah, it does tend to happen, unfortunately, in pretty much all endurance racing, is as we start to plateau and head towards that middle part of the race, it does tend to get a little bit slower, and drivers do tend to start to gap around each other quite a little bit. There will be the average and obvious battles out on the grid that we'll get to watch every now and then, but unfortunately this is the period where things will slowly start to get a little bit boring throughout the entire race. And so just keep your eyes peeled. If you do have your favorite driver and you're watching in the virtual grandstand, make sure you keep your eyes on them, and then obviously you can just follow along with how you see it on the live timings board. As currently doesn't look like there's too many active battles out on circuit that we've really got going on. I do see the Rising Panda car of Jason Keddy has now jumped into the pit stop, and will be jumping in to the pit lane, apologies, to get their pit stops done and dusted. Ronan PT Red of Louis Carmo will move up, and so that's a good position, move up on there. For the Welsh competitions car of Luigi Caputi, obviously still pushing on the team Racing Point of Andrea Pelletti that they lost out on just a couple laps back, and so that's still going to be an obvious competition that we'll have to watch and wait for. The couple of drivers up at the top, though, that have jumped into the box, Paxim Sport, have come in. So have the, I believe, another car that is already out, I believe, that has started to move around. And so now the Delta Racing car, GTD, Lucas Souza still, Douglas Souza, apologies, still holding second, but it looks like the Andromeda Racing team of Emariu does indeed move up to third position here. So a couple of switch arounds happening between those drivers. Team Racing Point Red will now move back up into fifth, and so will Project 91 Racing Team move up a little bit further. So a couple of switch arounds here or there between our drivers. Currently, your leading AM driver has completely switched around. It used to be the Just for Speed car of Louis Fichtner. It's now the 967 iRacing team of Jesus Saez, who sits up in P number 1. So great work from them to make those moves and change things around. There we indeed see the 967 car, the Porsche 992, working their way around circuit, hopefully trying to get as much distance away from they can from Lucas de Abreu, the second position runner-up in the AM class, from Delta Racing, and then obviously Just for Speed of Louis Fichtner down in third position, trying to work his way back up. It is indeed Bravo Snow. Someone's around. It's one of the Lamborghinis, I believe, and I'm not too sure who that is, but that might be trying to figure out. It might be the Prism Motorsports car, I believe, of Lucas Huberger down in 33rd. And we'll have to try and get the replay for you shortly to have a look at what on earth has happened on the exit of the Lesmo 2. It is indeed Lucas Herberger. And I believe same situation, well, hopefully not the same situation as the Team HSK, because that was a contact situation. This might just be self-inflicted, and indeed, this time around, it was taking too much curb on the inside line, and unfortunately, with a low-down GT3 car like that, the jumping around on the circuit is going to completely destabilize the rear. And that's indeed what's happened there to Lucas Huberger. He now has to try and work a little bit further back up after the couple of positions he's lost there. And unfortunately there for the Prism Lamborghini, not what they would have expected and hoped for in this race. Back up to the Bravo Snow. They're chasing down in the 967 here to try and get up ahead. Not in a class battle though. It is currently Pro versus Am, so the two opposing classes in this battle. And we'll see if Bravo Snow can work their way up. Bravo Snow also having quite a good stride in the Spa 24 hour, not having the best of results that they would have possibly hoped for, but a lot of good fighting that they got to experience with quite a couple of the top runners throughout that race. So let's hope that they can continue that stride and climb up to the top spots there towards Summit Esports of Tim Kraus and maybe Project 91 of GTC Dennis Blocker. And we could potentially see some fighting action going on there. About 12 minutes until we reach the halfway mark, in which we'll take a short break, and then we'll continue the racing action for all of you throughout the remainder of this race. 42 minutes to the next hour, and then we head to the 1 hour sprint here for the Monza 3 hour.
Yeah, and that's where we're going to see some interesting racing and see where all these strategies will pan out as we're on board with the Bravo Snow car, looking to clear a little bit of traffic by the looks of things. No, actually, this is a scrap actually between the 967 iRacing team and Am car as well, leading the Am category at the minute. So they got to think long and hard now. Do we really want to be fighting with a pro driver, or do we feel like we've got the confidence, we've got the kahunas on our side to take on the challenge of Bravo Snow, who already has a quick look to the inside? And Bravo Snow as well, with their way the strategy works out, they kind of want to clear this Porsche as quickly as they can and not allow the leading Lamborghinis to disappear too far down the road. As you can see here, better run from the Mustang there, and they're right to bumper here and going to leave it to the very last minute here. I think Bravo Snow, as they head down towards the first chicane, want to use all that slipstream, and you can see there the Mustang just about to go down the inside, brakes much later than the Porsche. Can he lift it and get through the corner? Yes, he can. Job done, and onwards and upwards goes the Bravo Snow. But it was good though. The 967 iRacing team didn't lose too much time in that situation. It was fairly straightforward for both cars, and through the Curva Grande they go once again. So you see there the Porsche driver maybe looking back up the inside, but possibly best to just allow the Mustang to go. They're ahead of their closest, quite considerably ahead of their closest rivals, which is then next to the Delta Racing car. But a good move there from Bravo Snow to put themselves up into another position. Go on board now with the Fisher Motorsport. Earlier we saw them having a little bit of a moment in turn one, losing the rear two all by themselves. That's Benjamin Fisher, I think, is driving the car currently. No, we got what's this, the Fisher Racing Motorsport car we're looking? Yeah, I believe it is. But heading as they head into the chicane, I can't read the camera very well. The 84, nope. Yeah, it's definitely a Fisher Motorsport. I think the name before it kind of threw me off there. It's the Fisher Motorsport car under a little bit of pressure here from the BMW behind. I don't know if again that's a leading car coming through, but either way, the Fisher car going through the chicane now. And the BMW just behind, looking eager to find a way through at the minute, looking to the inside of Lesmo 1, and just runs a little bit wide, does the Porsche there. The 84 just hanging in there. Might be worth letting the BMW go, because he is hassling the back of him by the looks of things, and into the slipstream they go. And down towards Ascari they go, but we now move on board with another scrap. We are on board with the DCS Racing Porsche, and looking to make a move on the Quad Dash Racing Team BMW, and into the chicane they go. And it seems like the Porsche doesn't seem to be struggling too much with straight lines. Seems to be able to hold their own in the straight line positions. No I've been known that Porsche struggle in a straight line, but obviously on iRacing it seems to be a little bit different. But you can see there the BMW has pulled away through the traction zones as they head down towards the chicane. The Porsche still making themselves present behind that BMW as we are starting to come to the halfway stage of this race. Fights are starting to happen once again, and the excitement is still yet to come a little bit later on in this race. So make sure that in a minute or so when we have a little break, make sure you top up on your coffees and teas and get yourself some biscuits and watch the rest of this dramatic race, as things will come to a close in the last hour and a half of this race. But so far, so good. If you are the team at Racing Point Lamborghinis, they're looking good. They're looking strong. Can they hold on and try and win another race here at Monza? That is the question, Tristan. It's going to be an interesting climax towards the end of this race, coming up to the halfway stage. We'll see what unfolds later on.
Yeah, indeed. We will have to see how this all folds out as the race comes towards its close. And as we mentioned, that last hour is going to be quite a dash down towards the line, because drivers will be putting their best foot forwards to try and get the final results rendered in the closing amount of time that they've got. 1 hour is a very, very short time out on track. And the final driver in the car will be in the mindset of just putting in as much possible effort into getting the best possible laps in the car to render the best results as the race comes to a close. There's also when we notice the window of desperation. It's something I like to refer to, especially in those final closing moments, is that desperation window where drivers tend to take a couple more slightly riskier moves, and moves that would definitely not be allowed in a longer stinted run in endurance racing. But when it comes down to those last 10 to 15 minutes, drivers really are hungry for those last fighting positions, and they tend to make some last minute lunges or dives that could possibly end in a bit of drama. So keep your eyes peeled as we get to that point, but we're still a bit of a distance away there, an hour and a half until this race is done and dusted. 6 minutes until the halfway mark here. Drivers will be looking at that timing board in the top left hand side. It's a critical piece here in endurance racing to watch how much time is left. They also use it to plan around their racing strategies here. So it's a critical piece that the drivers continuously use. The 967 iRacing team does indeed jump into sixth position in class, as they are now into the pit stops and will lose out on a couple of spots there. They are officially out of the pits. That was a quick pit stop for them. Good job there. The Andromeda Racing Emeryou in sixth position does indeed jump into the pit box. So does Dennis Blocker. So the two of them jump into the box, and we'll get some fresh car rubber on the cars there and a nice new tank of fuel. The Summit Esports driver there of Tim Kraus jumps into sixth position now. We're currently on board there with the DCS Racing Blue of George Sid Santa Maria taken over there from Ethan Davies in 11th. So they're on the backside of Tristan Engelstad for the Quad Ash Racing. And so that is indeed a battle for class here between these two. Let's hope to see some action between the two of them as they head down towards turn number 1. It's well too far away, though, for the DCS Racing to make any kind of move here. But they will both claim a couple of spots, as the Project 91 and Andromeda are still in the box at the moment. So a couple of spots to move up on the board there. Rosso Esports also moves up into 12th. Welch Competitions moves up into 11th. Welch is also right on the backside there on Team Racing Point, and so those two are going to be fighting for class position, and that is the battle for the Pro-Am class. And so that's Team Racing Point of Andrea Paletti currently leading it. So good little fight that we might get to see coming up over there. The rest of your drivers still revolving around the circuit. Yeah, the DCS Racing Blue still, as we mentioned, on board with him. And the rest of our drivers will be doing the same thing now. The current spot that we are in terms of timing is the consistency window. This is the window where drivers are just aiming to do the same thing over and over and over, getting good, consistent, clean laps in. It's a weird fundamental, because you don't notice something like this in an endurance race, right? Dan, I mean, you would know about this. An endurance racing, it's just something you don't really think of when you are out there pacing laps, lap after lap, especially in your longer races where you go over 100, maybe over 200 laps. Drivers sometimes don't realize, and spectators don't realize, that those laps are so critical to a team's finishing position by just being consistent and setting the same lap times with the same consistency over and over.
Yeah, for sure. Lap times and just being consistent is usually the winner, as we got a lot of the leading cars now in pit lane, so we should see the return of the other leading cars back to the front. But yeah, not long ago I did an event where it was a 100-minute race, and just the strategy that I chose allowed me to get into clean air and give me the free air that I needed, and consistency, pumping in the lap times around the Nürburgring, obviously not the Nordschleife, just the Nürburgring itself, and just constantly pumping in the 155s that I needed to do allowed me to go from 13th up to 6th. So the consistency really does pay off. Well, another driver did the same strategy and kept having mistakes. He dropped down the order and in the end lost out massively. So consistency is key, and being into a rhythm is key as well. So the little mistakes do end up turning into big mistakes later on, as the Ronin PT car comes out of pit lane and straight into defensive mode as it got the Rosso car down the inside. But with the hot tires and fresh mind, the Mercedes goes up the inside and job done. The Ronin PT car though needs to just get back into a rhythm, get back into some form of flow, and come back a little bit later on, and just trust that their strategy is going to work out. They did get roughly up to the halfway stage, so possibly another stop later on, and to the end they will go. But it is going to be interesting and key to see where everyone else falls in with strategy, especially the racing point cars. Near enough and Bravo Snow, and basically your whole top 5 all pitted roughly at the hour mark. So we'll see how that all fans out. But like I said, the strategy has to work if you are able to make sure that you can keep that consistency and speed up and make as very little mistakes as possible. Consistency is always king.
Consistency is indeed always king. It is the one fundamental that keeps you going in long races, and you have to make sure that you keep your head down, keep on strong, and make sure you keep the cars rolling out on the grid. It's looking quite good, though, for the Welsh Competitions car, and pushing on strong behind Team Racing Point. The two Lamborghinis will be going head-to-head shortly. Let's hope to see a bit of a challenge coming in between the two of them, and we get to see some positions moving up on the board. This will probably be the fight we'll keep you on board for during our short break, for maybe 2 to 3 laps, and just to watch the drivers as they go around, and also just for us to get a quick refuel, making sure that we're all ready to go for the final hour and a half here. But still a minute to go before our halfway mark. So we'll keep on looking out for any kind of positions or moves that happen up and down the grid here for the remainder of it. It is going to be quite nice and tight between the two of these drivers, but for the rest of the grid, there is quite a lot of distancing that has already embarked on us. Project 91 Racing Team GTC, Khalid Ramadan, all the way down in 14th now after the pit stops. Unfortunately, they've lost out on any kind of top 5 fighting opportunity that we thought that they had. The answer's Fisher, obviously, like earlier, as I had a couple of ups and downs from Tane Hodderson, and so hopefully they can try and recover some things. The 888 of Andromeda Racing, that's Rob C. Johnson, down 7th over in class, 33 overall. Also will have to work quite hard to make the positions up in the AM class. So these drivers will be doing their absolute best to keep consistent during this slower period of time, and let's hope that we get to see that throughout this race. The rest of your drivers, Rusty Spatulas, GTC, that's Ika Kotisalo, I believe it is, or Lika, or Ika. It's one of the, I believe it's a more Slovakia name, but very interesting as well. Down in 31st overall, 10th in class, and so they're fighting it down as well, trying to make sure when they can make some positions and moves up on the board. We are going to be taking a short break though, and we'll be back with you shortly. We'll probably keep your eyes on board here with the fight for the Pro-Am lead. Don't go anywhere too far. Grab something to drink, something small to eat, and we'll be back with you in approximately 2 to 3 laps. just about 4 minutes have passed, and the racing action has continued to be quite immense, especially here between the Pro-Am classes, especially with the Welsh competitions of Luigi Caputi getting ahead now of the Team Racing Point and Andrea Paletti. So these two, but it's not confirmed though for the Welsh, because as you can see, the Team Racing Point right behind is hungry for some aggression and will continuously try and push on strong to make a couple more amends and overtakes throughout the rest of this race. Let's hope to see some more action between the two of them, but so far the Welsh competitions of Luigi Caputi has officially made the jump up to get up into the next spots, and great move on that regard. The two Team Racing Points in the lead have returned to their original positions. It is Vito Fatalino and Alessio Doppio who return to the top two. Bravo Snow, on the other hand, though, has done an incredible recovery drive here. They move up into third position with Quadash and DCS Racing Blue just behind. The Rosso Esports of Matias Beraldo. Like we mentioned, the red Mercedes having a bit of an error earlier on in this race, and so they've dropped down quite significantly. The two Delta Racings of Douglas Souza and Marcos Adami, they just switch around spots now. So Douglas moves up into 11th, and it looks like Marcos does move down one position down to 12th. Good amounts of action though, Dan, and it looks like for the last an hour and a half there is definitely still some contention for some good spots out on the field.
Yeah, indeed. As so going into the later end of this race, it is all about pushing yourself and allowing yourself to just make those couple of spaces. We've got these two Lamborghinis going at each other very, very hard at the moment, and allowing these two to they're racing each other hard, but also it's going to be slowing their progress at the minute as well. So we'll see how that works out as we go on board with the Delta Racing BMW now onto the back of the Ronin PT car. But this is your leading AM driver. As I said earlier on, we had a great scrap between him and a Just For Speed car as well. The Mercedes-Benz still not a million miles away from the action as well, so they can still work their way up with anything that can happen still in this race. But at the moment, this is the scrap we're watching. It is the Team Racing Point chasing down the leading Pro-Am car, and it's all Lambo fight at this moment in time, and it is definitely going to be a scrap to the very end. And with the pro drivers also slowly starting to work their way onto the back of them, they've got to be aware of what's happening as well regarding being chased. But so far so good, and still some great action, some clean racing as well, other than the first incident up in turn one at the start of the race and a couple other little hiccups here and there. It has been relatively clean and fair from everyone here tonight, and it's this afternoon, and yeah, looking forward to more action coming our way.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to some more action that will possibly come throughout the remainder of this race. An hour and 20 minutes left to go here for all of our drivers, and the 5 drivers up in front in your Pro class, and then the 2 and 6 and 7th in your Pro-Am class. Delta Racing's Lucas de Abreu does move up back into the lead of the Am class. That's down in 10th position, and so he will now be quite uncontested at the time being. The next car up on the list is the Just For Speed Racing of Louis Fichtner, so no real competition there in terms of distance away, so doesn't have to worry too much about that. The 967 iRacing team seem to have quite a long pit stop, because they were leading the AM class and have dropped significantly down. Then unfortunately also the Sahara XGT currently with Ismail Laib all the way down in 19th position, 12th in class for the 397. So a couple of switch-arounds going on there. Sankyo Racing Team with Ryder Roche does indeed get ahead of Ronin PT Red's Louis Carmo. That's down in 24th position. And the Project 91 Racing Team of Khalid Ramadan also just got past the Summit Esports team. That's got Lucas Santos in the driver's seat at the time being. It's still currently all eyes though on this battle for the Pro-Am lead. It is quite possibly the most contested battle out on the field at the moment. The rest of our cars around the circuit, not too much to contest for at the moment in those categories, and so we will continue to scour through the live timings board to have a look for all of you as to when we will possibly see some more fighting action between all of these drivers. Let's hope to see a little bit more throughout the last hour than what we saw in the hour from 3 hours, from 2 hours down to 1 hour. So I'm hoping that last hour is going to be quite contested. Ronin PT Red of Louis Carmo looks to be jumping into the pit box. Never mind, their name was grayed out. Now it looks like it's grayed out again, so I'm not too sure if the Ronin PT Red. No, it does not look like they've jumped in, so they're staying out. And then still currently with Andrea Paletti. He's not able to get back up past that Welch competitions car, Dan. It looks like for the time being, Luigi Caputi seems to be the slightly faster driver there in the Welch competitions car compared to his teammates, and really keeping Team Racing Point on their toes here, just not able to get past without any kind of extremely heinous overtake that they're going to have to try and make.
Yeah, it seems like they're in an awkward position, a frustrating position right now. Obviously this is to fight for their overall win class, so it is a good scrap. But we think that the Team Racing Point Lamborghini, obviously his teammates leading the way at the minute, first and second. But there's got to be some more pace under there, and at the minute he can't seem to find a way through on his fellow Lamborghini compatriot here. But it's now just a game of chess here. These guys are going to be sitting behind one another, try and figure out each other's driving styles. And obviously, the longer they go into this race, the more and more they'll soon learn who's strong where, who's weak in other places. But with that as well, they'll slowly learn to then adapt and fight in the correct ways to stop them getting advantage. As we now move on to another fight here with the Mustang and the Porsche of Summit Esports, trying to find a way on the Project 91 car. And just a run through the chicane there, Porsche much more agile and smoother through the chicane, and the Mustangs just lost a little bit of ground there. In the foreground we see the I believe they're the leaders as well, so in a minute they're going to be having the leaders coming up behind them and having to allow them to come through without any real drama. But they can be an opportunity to gain position as well, so where you've got the leaders coming through, you can catch one of the other drivers out and work your way through. As a kick of dust there, that was from the Ronin PT car that's now on the back of the nearly on pace Aston Martin. And this is quite a close little fight as well. We've got the other McLaren just ahead of them, as well as the Shankari Racing Academy just ahead of them as well. So this is all going to start concertinaing up and start seeing scraps again, with the pit stops coming to a close for one group. Another load will come through for another. So see how all this pans out. But at the minute, they're close, but no real threat of an attack at the minute for the Ronin PT car.
Yeah, it does not look like it's going to be any threat for the time being from the Ronin PT Red, and as they still try and remain in that slight bit of a wake behind the likes of the nearly on pace of Joachim Svensson, and then Sankyu Racing Team of Ryder Rouge just up ahead. DSP Esports Racing Team does look to get ahead there in the GTC of Danilo Petty, as the Unitronic Fisher Motorsports of Marek Dansky does now jump into the pit box. You can see it just in the top right hand side now into the pit's his actual box. He jumps, and the rest of the drivers will just try and work their way around him and see how they can potentially work their way through amongst the rest of our drivers. Still on board though with the Ronin PT Red just on the backside of the nearly on pace, and hopefully we can see these two really starting to attack and put some pressure on each other. That would be quite stellar to see as they continue to try and pace themselves throughout the rest of this race. Up in front though, it is still going to be your same old order, with the Bravo Snow though, Igor Google being your only difference in that top five, being a randomly new place driver in the top five, which is great to see. And then Quadash Racing also making some good triumphs up there in the fourth position slot. Now up on the inside is going to be the Ronin PT Red though. That's coming up on the nearly on pace car, I believe, and indeed it is. What a great overtake on the inside of the first Lesmo there for the Ronin PT Red of Louis Carmo, and he's going to get a great jump up on the inside line there to move up further ahead. The Fisher Motorsports car still in the pit lane there, gets overtaken by the other Fisher Motorsports car, and Ronin PT Red really looking good now for the time being to continue to put pressure here. About an hour and 15 minutes left to go, 15 minutes before we head into your sprint sector, the final hour of racing before we get going into that the last hour before we get to the checkered flag line into this race. We've still got 37 active cars out on the grid. Unfortunately, it looks like two of them have decided to pull out. That's the Team HSK of Jacob Otto, as well as the Prism Motorsports of Lucas Huberger. Those two cars we saw suffer damage, funny enough, at the exact same corner, and the same two cars have unfortunately decided to DNF and won't be returning back out onto the grid, it looks like, for the time being. I'm not seeing any kind of timing differences for the two cars, and they've both been in the pit lane for well too long at this time being. So yeah, unfortunately DNF'd at this current moment in time. Sankyu Racing of Ryder Rouge, they come into the pit lane now, so that's going to change things up a bit, but the Project 91 of Khalid Ramadan will still be holding off again against the Summit Esports behind as well, with a couple of others, but lots of contention within this turn 1, and it's good to see a good amount of fighting going on. So Esports is also getting up ahead as quite a couple of drivers are jumping into the pit lane now.
It's getting a little bit congested here with the leaders now working their way through this pack, and the team at Racing Point, the 19 car, has cleared pretty much most of the traffic. Just got the 91 Porsche now to clear, but just behind them is the other Lamborghini as well. So the 91 Porsche, it might have to start thinking about letting this Lamborghini through, but the longer it takes, the more and more likely chances that Mustang is going to be right on the Lamborghini's heels and to try and gain a position from the Project 91 car. But as you can see there, a big slide from the BMW, and just all these cars congested up, as may possibly see now the Project 91. It stays on racing line, but it gives that perfect opportunity to allow the Lamborghini through and not lose any time. Meanwhile, the other BMW car allows the other team Racing Point Lamborghini through, and once again now they're in a little bit of a sandwich with the top 2 in this race, and they're the Porsche. Not the best run through Ascari as they head down to Parabolica. This is not what the 16 Lamborghini would want, because he's got 2 cars racing while his teammate has cleared these 2 relatively with ease, and the Lamborghini right behind them. And will the Mustang get a better run through Parabolica? Looks like he did, and he's in the slipstream and the toe of the Porsche Project 91 car. And who is going to come out on top? That is the question, as the Mustang and Porsche battle it out for the lower end of points. Still in the pro class, fighting out for 14th and 15th overall, but the Lamborghini down the inside makes the move on the Mustang, and that's going to stop that battle momentarily. But a real high mouth moment, not just for the 2 that's fighting, but also for your leaders. As you can see, the 16 car was the car that wasn't really on pace, but now in this second half of this race seems to have found a rhythm, seems to have found a bit of consistency, and starting to hunt down his teammate as we go on board with the Delta Racing trio, all line astern here, the 4, the 12 and the 31, all close to one another. And once again, it is the AM car that's leading this group at the moment. But I'm pretty sure the 12 and 4 are not really going to be, they're going to be fighting, but not really fighting too hard, as they're all going to be towing one another, all fighting out for 10th, 11th and 12th overall. And obviously the Delta Racing car purely focusing, number 4, purely focusing on his AM race, as the Just for Speed Mercedes is a bit far behind. And this is a strange situation for the Delta Racing cars here, Tristan. They're towing one another around, but they're kind of in no man's land at the minute. They've got nearly no one ahead of them that's close enough, and no one really up behind them to really give them any threat. It's a kind of a weird lull they're in at the minute.
Yeah, a bit of a no man's land coming in for the Delta boys, and thankfully the one exclusion that we can make here is that obviously they're together and that they can use their team strategies if they need to against some of the other drivers. But I do agree with you, yeah, the 3 of them in the 10th to 12th spot, all racing each other, and obviously there's no real competition between these 3 because they're all wanting to score the same amount of points on the board. Obviously the Delta Racing in the lead here of Lucas de Abreu is not even in the same class. He's in the AM class here and actually leading the AM class. So maybe the Delta boys have decided to maybe try and assist, and as we can see here, Lucas Souza is going to be Douglas Souza is going to be led past, and so the pro driver is going to move up ahead. I wonder if Marcus Adami is going to be allowed the same right of passage behind. He's also in the pro class there for the Delta Racing guys, and then Lucas de Abreu is now in the middle of it in the AM class. So a little bit of switching around here coming from the team, deciding to play some team strategy between the 3 of them, and they'll continue to push around on circuit to see what they can do between each other. But for the time being, like you mentioned, in a bit of a no man's land for these 3, and not much action out on circuit for them to really contest for in terms of the other drivers. So they just have to hold off for the time being. A couple of our drivers will be in and out of the pit lane. There we do see 2 of the Delta Racing drivers have jumped in. Lucas de Abreu is one of them, and then I believe another a little bit further behind on the grid that I'm trying to locate. Actually, no, it looks like it's just the one for the time being. So jumping in then, the Project 91 of Khalid Ramadan was also in. He's also come out now all the way down in 23rd position. So a little bit of switching around coming in from all of our drivers as they work their way around the track here. And hopefully we can see some good amount of action there. The Delta Racing of Leandro Toledo, sorry, there was another one, I believe, that decided to jump into the pit lane and now switched out cars, and so that's the number 4 in the pro class. That was indeed in the AM class. That was indeed Lucas de Abrio, and so now jumping into the car is Leandro Toledo. Ronan PT Red of Louis Carmo does indeed jump up ahead into 4th position in class, 21st overall, and so a little bit of change-ups coming in for the rest of our drivers. So good amount of action happening up and down our grid here between all of our drivers. Let's have a look to see how this is going to go. Team Racing Point Red at the top with Alessio Doppio, and Team Racing Point of Vito Fatalino still leading the Grand Prix, this race, with an absolute charge. This endurance race has been pretty much a showstopper for these two because they have had nobody really ready to contest them. Bravo Snow is over 20 seconds behind them, and that is going to be the 3rd place runner-up here. So really not much competition, but for these three, Quad Ash is going to move up into 4th as well ahead of DCS Racing Blue. So just a couple of things happening all around circuit. I do see one of the Mustangs in the background blipping around there. So that's the Summit Esports car just trying to work their way through it. And the rest of our drivers still trying to make their way through. We are heading into an hour and 10 minutes left here. And this is when the closing stages of our race are going to be happening with all of our drivers trying to scrape in those final points for round number 3. We head to Nürburgring for round number 4, and then Portimao circuit, the Algarve circuit in round number 5. That's only in the 3rd of October, though, so a bit of a wait. But the next race will be coming to you at the end of this month, which is in the 22nd of August. That's at the Nürburgring. Another great place to watch some good GT3 racing action. It's not the Nordschleife, it's just the Nürburgring standard, which is the standard GP circuit, but still great racing all over for that circuit, if you have to ask me, especially when it comes to GT3s.
Exciting calendar still to end here in the championship. Nürburgring is going to be an interesting one because the Nürburgring, I've recently discovered, obviously doing a race myself, it's not the easiest place to overtake. It's very much a strategy circuit. Not many overtaking opportunities, not like here at Monza where you got plenty of opportunities to make a move, but Nürburgring is definitely going to be a challenge for strategy rather than race pace. Obviously we can see the Team Racing Point here seem to have just nailed their strategy here today. They're long out into the distance, they're comfortable, they've the only thing they've got to worry about is each other, and I'm pretty sure they have some strict orders. But going to the Nürburgring, we'll see how they get on around there. And then Portimao, a circuit that I enjoy watching but detest racing at. Is a circuit that definitely provides some great racing, especially with the fast flowing corners, with high downforce vehicles such as your hypercars, your single seaters. They're great to race around but terrible to actually compete in. But GT3 cars seem to be a little bit more compliant, but not as exciting as the high downforce cars. But either way, two very, very good circuits coming our way later on in this season as we come to the closing stages of this championship. The Team Racing Point cars, so looking strong, looking dominant here, and with the next two races also being 3 hours long each. It's like you said earlier on, Tristan, it's basically a sprint events now for these guys. The big heavy hitters races are done. It is now purely focusing on trying to gain as many points as they can with the last few sprint races that are left.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just those final closing moments here in these last few 3 hour sprints. And that's going to be the closing of it for the points here for the GT Endurance Cup for the Europe division. And it's been good so far. Throughout the season, obviously all European circuits coming in on board, and hopefully we get to see some change up maybe in one of the other endurance cups. So we see a couple more feature circuits from all around the world that are great to see for racing purposes as well. Heading into that an hour and 7 minute mark though, there's the Welch Competitions car. They've come into the pit lane and will unfortunately drop all the way down from first in their class down to 4th position. Team Racing Point, Rising Panda Racing and Chrono Sim Sports will all be ahead now, but I believe they will all still have to come in and pit. So the Welch will be a little bit on ease there in terms of that, because they do still have a couple of their competitors having to come into the pit lane up in front. And so that will at least ease the pressure a little bit in terms of trying to navigate around the circuit. But the racing action still continues to go around here with the rest of the drivers working their way throughout the grid. A couple of them, quite a couple in the pit stops now. Team Racing Point, Ronin PT, Bravo Snow, DCS Racing Blue, Quad Ash, Rosso Esports, and in the other Team Racing Point. They've all jumped into the pit box now. You can see that the pit window overlays on the right-hand side are quite crazy at this point in time. Drivers will be doing their final pit stop now. We are heading into the last hour, so whoever takes the car now will be driving the car towards the finish line in this race. So keep your eyes peeled for that, because whoever is going to be sitting in that car, most probably going to be the fastest driver that they've picked to try and get the car towards the end here to compete in those closing moments. We'll have to wait and see how that's going to work out for the remainder of our drivers. And it's also going to be one of note where it comes to the end of the race, with all the drivers working their way to getting as many points as they possibly can. Still, all those drivers with the pit stops that they've jumped into the pit box, they're all dropping quite drastically off the top spots here, and the rest of the drivers who are going for a more of an overcut, a little bit of a later strategy here, they all move up quite high up on the board. The Answers Fisher Motorsports team, Tane Hardison, all the way down 25th position. A couple of other drivers who are also trying to work their way around. The Pac Simsport GT team of William Westbrook, they've done well in 7th position so far, 6 overall in their class. And then obviously the Ronin PT Red now, the 64 car of Louis Carmo, now leads the AM class, which is great to see there. The iRacing team of 967, that's with Fran Lucas, will be in 2nd for the AM class. So a little bit of a split up coming between them, quite a bit of a distance between the two cars there as well. So quite a bit of a challenge that Ronin PT Red is going to have to work with, but they've got a huge distance to cover themselves with for the time being. The Vulture Competitions car has lost out to the Team Racing Point car in the pit stops, and Davide DeMarco will be jumping into the Vulture Competitions car after the pit stop. Stefano Guingato is into that car for the Team Racing Point, and in the pit stops they've lost out, but now they're contesting already into the first Lesmo, and it looks like Vulture Competitions is going to take the authority block right up to challenge Team Racing Point before they can even get a good lap out on that car, and Vulture moves up in to that provisional P1 spot after the Kronos car comes into pit. And great racing overall on the board there. Here's another one. This is the iRacing Team 967 moving up on the inside of Quad Ash. 2 cars not even in the same racing class, but still out there competing on circuit. Great to see them doing what they need to do out on circuit. And that 967 car really hungry to try and get up to the Ronin PT Red. We'll have to see if they've got enough time to do it in this race. An hour and 3 minutes left to go here for all of our drivers as they head on throughout the track. And Ronin PT now of Carlos Coxinho will lead this race with Douglas Souza behind him. And Team Racing Point of Gabriella Rizzoni gets back in the car down in 3rd place.
Yeah, pit stops happen thick and fast here, but the action still goes on the circuit. Obviously, cars returning back onto circuit right in the middle of scraps, and we're still watching in this fight between the Quad Dash Racing and the iRacing team as well, as the BMW in the slipstream of the Porsche, but can't seem to get alongside going into the chicane now. But the Porsche does go a little bit deep. It's going to compromise his exit, and the BMW is going to get a much better run out of turn 2 into then turn 3, which is the Curva Grande. But it seems like the Porsche just got a little bit more leg power here as it's just pulling away from the car behind. But either way, he's not going to go anywhere soon, as that BMW losing out to an AM driver will want to try and get back onto terms here. But as the strategies are now starting to pan out and fall into position, it's going to be interesting to see what situation drivers are going to be in, how much fuel they take on, have they taken tyres, which driver they've put in for the last stint. It is all going to come down. As we see there, the Porsche runs a little bit wide. That gives the opportunity for the BMW to stick the nose up the inside and gain the position back. Runs a little bit wide though, but kept the momentum and kept the speed and pulls away. Once again, a good little fight here, and as these two are scrapping away, the DCS Racing Blue of Ethan Davies is catching them as well, just in the foreground there, as it's going to be 2 Porsches up against the BMW. But the Quad Dash Racing car, Tristan there managing to sort himself out and keep that position. Possibly came out of the pits in a little bit cold tyres, a little bit cold fresh, a little bit cold in general, just to want to get back into a flow of things. And we are back on the way, and looks on the timetable, yeah, he's only just done 1 lap, so he's only just come out of the pits. So tyres back up to temperature, he's back into the zone, and through he goes. back on to another scrap here. We are on board with the DSP Esports Racing Lamborghini with Luca in the car currently at this moment in time, chasing down the Rosso Esports Mercedes-Benz. This Mercedes-Benz, I'm not sure if this is where the strategy has worked out, but it just ended up dropping down the order quite significantly, was fighting for the top 3 and is now under pressure from the Pro-Am car, and is going to look up the inside is the Ferrari, but the Mercedes comes off the brakes a little bit more to try and keep that overlap. But a great move from the DSP Esports Racing team there of Luca to get past Felipe and gain that position. So Ferrari on the move here at their home circuit, and just in the background there's another Porsche coming up behind them as we now move on to another scrap here. The scraps are coming in thick and fast here, Tristan, as we get towards the latter end. We're only now coming up to the last hour of this race, and this is where things start to get a little bit frantic.
Yeah, indeed. Things will start to get quite interesting here between all of our drivers up and down the grid and across all 3 of our classes, Pro, Pro-Am, and Am. And things are going to start to get quite dicey, like you mentioned. Drivers are going to be hungry to get those final positions on the board before things come to a close in exactly 1 hour's time, in about 20 or so seconds. And so the final moments for our drivers to really push themselves to their limits here. Currently aboard with the Andromeda Racing XERR team of Andrew Brown. And he's doing his best to make sure that his team stays well up in the top position spots throughout this race, and continuing to push on strong in 5th. He's got the Team Racing Point Red of Jam Kalbu just up ahead, but unfortunately it's going to be a bit of a fight to get there. There's a lot of traffic if he wants to try and fight. There's the Delta Racing GT car of Douglas Souza, and he's done an incredible recovery drive, especially after turn number 1's incident at the start of this 3-hour event where he got completely booted down the order. Now he's doing the best that he possibly can here to work his way through and hopefully find some kind of result here. We are officially into the last hour, the last sprint here in the GT Endurance Cup Europe for round number 3 here at Monza in North Milan. And the Temple of Speed has proven to be yet another great venue for racing for a second time here in today's events. It's about 6:15 in the evening for my side here in South Africa, and I believe it'll be similar for Dan if he's in the UK, probably about an hour behind or so. And for the rest of our competitors around Europe, will be in the roughly the same time zone. If we've got any of the American competitors, it might be slightly different for them, and maybe towards the morning side, morning side, getting towards middle of the day supposedly for the American drivers, before we head to the end of this race here in Monza for round number 3. A little bit of flashing coming there from Douglas Souza. He wants to try to get past these back markers. That's the Just for Speed car who's currently trapping him, and he really does want to try get up ahead towards the Ronin PT car just up ahead of him there. There you see the Ronin PT car now. The question is, I don't think Souza is on the same pit stop strategy here that Team Racing Point behind of Gabriel Zoni is going for. And so I think Douglas is still going to have to come in one last time. So is the Ronin PT, which is going to leave for the Team Racing Point Red to jump up towards the top spots. So we'll have to keep our eyes peeled for that one. This is back towards the Project 91 Racing team of Khalid Ramadan, and he's busy leading on to the likes of Lucas Santos just up ahead from the Summit Esports team. One thing I am very impressed about seeing, especially in a longer format race of 3 hours, is that we really haven't seen much penalties being dished out here. I really haven't seen much black flags being thrown for drive-throughs, let alone much slowdowns with the yellow flags. And obviously no DSQs have really been given, not even really any meatballs. So it's been quite a clean running of events here today, which has been excellent for the drivers in terms of maintaining their positions out on the grid, and hopefully they can continue to keep this pace up for the last 57 minutes of racing here. We are getting to those final closing moments before we head to the end of it here. Those final 30 minutes, the final 15 minutes, and the final 10 minutes are going to be quite crucial here, especially for the drivers competing for position, like the Project 91 here on the backside of the Summit Esports of Lucas Santos. That is the battle for 8th position here, and they are working hard to try and get up ahead in the Porsche 992, but they're going to have to work even harder to get past the Mustang up in front. A little bit better top speed, and obviously Summit Esports of Lucas Santos wanting to keep his lead as long as he possibly can.
He is indeed, and these two have been having a spectacular fight all race, as they've kind of just been these two teams are just kind of being stuck at the hip with one another, really going at one another and really trying to see who is top dog between these two. And at the minute, Summit Esports teams seem to have the edge on the 91 Porsche, but anything can still happen towards the end here. The 91, they're both on a similar strategy, one lap separating them differently, but the Project 91 Porsche has done one extra stop compared to the car in front, so we could see the 91 possibly move forward up a little bit later on. But the strategy is so key around here, especially in an endurance race. If you could get away with saving an extra pit stop, it means so much. It's so much time gained that you could necessarily, you know, it may take something like 30 seconds to 45 seconds for a car to make a stop, and if you can save that in a couple of tenths here and there every lap, just save a bit of fuel, save a bit of tires, just to make sure you eke out and save one stop, it can mean so much in a race. As we'll see the Delta Racing team and I believe also the Ronin PT car, both of these two are leading out at the minute, but we're pretty sure they have to make another stop just due to the way this has worked out in strategy wise. So it might be a splash and dash for these two, but at the minute they are leading this race unless they've done ultimate fuel saving and they're going to risk the tires. I think that 1 hour is going to be a big ask for them to get to the end, so we might be seeing them come in around the half an hour mark just to do a splash and dash. But either way, they're having a scrap now, fighting for the lead of this race. They have got a 25-second gap ahead of the next car, the Team Racing Point car, but we're pretty sure the Team Racing Point cars are looking solid for a win here this evening, or this afternoon, wherever you're watching. But at the minute, the Delta Racing GTD car is really putting the pressure on the Ronin PT. A great run through the chicane, attacking the curbs here. I can see he's starting possibly to get to the end of this tyre life and is really starting to put the pressure on the McLaren. You go from looking to chase and focusing on the road to then purely focusing on your mirrors, and there a big wiggle there from the BMW. Things are hotting up between these two, and the McLaren is doing everything it possibly can. Carlos trying his absolute best to keep Douglas behind him, but as they head up towards the chicane now, is there an opportunity for the BMW? Not on entry, but possibly on exit. It seems like the BMW is a little bit more compliant on the curbs, and through the chicane they go, and the McLaren holds off because Douglas looks a little bit wide. So this is getting really tasty stuff here between these two, and it'll keep going depending on how the strategy works in their favor. But a great racing so far between these two here, Tristan. They're really going at it.
Yeah, they really are. These two have continuously been putting the pressure on each other, and obviously it's for quite a pinnacle point in this race. However, it's just alerting me as to when they are actually going to be coming into the pit lane, because it has been the two Team Racing Point Reds leading this race throughout the entirety of this event, and now all of a sudden we do have the Ronin PT Red, and I mean the Ronin PT and the Delta Racing GTD leading this race, and so I am predicting that these two are still going to need to come through into the pit lane and obviously get themselves served up, which means that the two Team Racing Point cars are going to move up further. But this could also maybe have just been a really good pit stop decision coming in from the likes of Douglas Souza. Remember that they did pit slightly earlier than the rest of the field, and so they could be on a completely alternative strategy here. And so that's something to keep your eyes on. And same with the Andromeda Racing team of Andrew Brown. I mean, they've moved up into 5th position, and this is into the final hour now, which means that there's not really the whole case of yes, but they still need to do multiple pit stops, and you don't know where they're going to land up, because we are into that last hour now. It is the last crucial moments before this race comes to an end. And so it is quite a pinnacle thought that we have to think about here as to when these kind of things are going to be happening for our drivers, and when each of these drivers are going to be coming into the pit lane, or when these drivers are going to potentially just be remaining up ahead and overtake and stay ahead of the Team Racing Point cars, because that's going to be quite a thing for the Team Racing Points if they work the entire race to keep themselves so far up in the lead, and then all of a sudden, just due to some pit stop strategy, they've been completely overthrown here by the likes of Douglas Souza and the likes of Carlos Coxinho. I mean, that would be quite a pinnacle moment in this race as a whole, if you have to ask me. So we're just going to have to wait and see how this is going to work out for all of these drivers in terms of where they eventually are going to end up, because, it's something that we desperately have to think about as we slowly start to come to the end of this race, and it's an important one. Currently, it is really only our main topic in this race. The rest of our drivers have all started to subsidize here and kind of split themselves up. The 967 team is back up into P1 for the AM class, and Velch Competitions is currently holding the lead for the Pro-Ams with Team Racing Point behind and DSP Esports just behind. So there's not much going on there between those two. The main center of attraction is these two drivers up in front of Delta Racing GTD and Ronin PT. When are they going to come into pit, or are they going to be staying out until the end of this race?
I think it's going to be a hard push for them to stay out. I think it's going to be asking a lot from these guys to really make it to the end of this race. But I think the Team Racing Point cars, even if while these guys are still lapping as they are, the more they fight, the more likely chances the Lamborghinis will just slowly to work their way back into a strategy position. I still think the Team Racing Point cars have nailed the strategy. They're sitting currently 3 and 4. They're comfortable with no real threat around them. So it is purely down to these two and how much they're willing to fight. If they can get to the end, and it's a big if, it's going to be do or die right to the very end, and those Lamborghinis are going to be hot on their tails. Currently at the minute they're lapping, the leaders are lapping in the 147.9, 147.8, while the Lamborghinis behind them are around the 6 to even 7 tenths a lap faster than the guys in front. So either way, they'll be slowly chipping away at that lead as these two continue fighting. But we'll see how it all pans out. I might have to eat my words a little bit later, but the McLaren has gone wide, and that's going to open the door for the BMW to come up the inside. And just ahead of them as well is the Rising Panda Aston Martin. So that's going to give the BMW a little bit of a slipstream as it then drifts over to give the McLaren a slipstream. But it's already enough. The Delta racing car that was spun around in turn 1 now leads the race here, with still 50 minutes still left to go of this race. And Tristan, obviously you said earlier on, it's nice to see no penalties, no track limit warnings or such, but could they all be pushing the limits now a little bit harder and start to build them up bit by bit and catch them out when they least expect it? But the Delta racing car has got the job done. Now can they extend the gap?
Yeah, that is going to be the big situation, is can they extend the gap? And I mean, I'm looking at the pit counter as well on our live timings board, and between the Delta Racing, Ronin PT, and the 2 Team Racing Points, they are all on 2 pit stops currently. So it's a weird thing, because I mean, our producer has mentioned that the top 2 are on the same pit stop strategy. They've obviously pitted slightly differently compared to the Team Racing Point drivers, but the situation here is whether or not that pit strategy has given them the massive advantage of staying well ahead of the rest of the grid here, because I mean, it's a 23-second gap between Ronin PT and Team Racing Point. That's well over an entire pit stop here, which is why it's a little bit confusing to me as to how these two are staying out in front. Obviously, there is still 48 minutes left to go, but if this is the same situation, for example, with 8 minutes left to go, then they are clearly trying to push towards the end of this race. So that's why we keep on saying we have to keep our eyes peeled here to see how these top 2 are going to end up in this race. Are they going to end up remaining up at the top, or is this going to be a pit stop that's going to throw them down? Because if they do have to pit, it's going to throw them well into the top, well below the top 5 here.
There's the answer.
Because everyone is busy fighting it out, and there we do see it. And there's the answer right there. Douglas Souza does come into the box. Ronin PT Carlos Coxinho does stay out, but he probably will be coming in since they are on the same pit stop strategy. The question is now, how long is Delta Racing pit stop going to be? It was a 20-second gap from Delta Racing to Team Racing Point. Delta Racing only hits his pit box now. I'm assuming he's just going for a quick fuel up. I don't know if he's going to be changing the tires, so I don't think it's going to be that long. And but it looks like Team Racing Point is going to get out ahead. But where does the number 12 Delta Racing come out is going to be the important question. Douglas Souza is out of the car, and Lucas Freire is going to jump in now for the final 47 minutes. So the last 47-minute sprint is now being thrown to a driver who has had no track time yet today so far. Douglas has been in the car the entire time, and so now that is also playing a slight bit of a risk, but hopefully Lucas has been warming up outside of the iRacing session to make sure that he's all ready to go. A couple of our other drivers also wondering about seeing what kind of strategy they're going to be pulling here, but this is pinnacle to see where Delta Racing comes out. They're all the way down to 7th position already, so they are definitely not going to be in the top 5 competition yet, nor is the Ronin PT car. 50 seconds in the pit box, and only now going to be exiting the pit lane, so that is unfortunate there for the Delta Racing team. They've dropped all the way down to 9th position overall and in class, which means the same effect is probably going to be thrown to the Ronin PT team, and they'll probably also drop further down, which means the Team Racing Point cars will return back up to the top where they originally were posted. So that is definitely going to change things up a little bit here. So keep your eyes focused as to how this is eventually going to land up. Delta Racing GTD, though, does have a bit of a competition, though, to try and push on to Quad Ash Racing. We do have a potentially weird pass here. This is Quad Ash Racing down in 9th. And I believe this is the overtake with the likes of Delta Racing, but I believe they got past in the pit stop. That's exactly why we see the Delta Racing a little bit further down. The Quad Ash now will feel the pressure, though, because the driver of Lucas Freire will want to try and recover a little bit here. They have kept the top 10, but I don't think that Delta Racing is going to be happy with just the top 10. They're possibly going to want to try and push further to even get somewhere towards the top 9 or top 8.
Either way, it's a great recovery drive considering they were facing the wrong way at turn 1. Start of this race. So the Delta Racing squad, although it hasn't quite panned out for them overall, it's been a good recovery drive for them to get themselves back at least into the top 10 with a fresh driver in the car, with a fresh possibly set of tyres and fuel. Let's see what Lucas could do and maybe try and threaten some of the guys in front. He's just behind the Quad Dash Racing. He's also got the Summit Esports not too far ahead of them as well, and they're still having their scrap with the 91 Porsche as well. So but all these guys, their stint is on 26 laps, 27 laps. They're still going to work their ways back up. So from what I can tell by the leaderboard tower at the minute, it's we're definitely going to see the McLaren in, but we should see the Team Racing Point, both Lamborghinis, retake the lead. And then it's the Bravo Snow and the Quadrant Racing cars that are on a similar strategy to them. So I still think that Delta Racing are going to get possibly a top 5 finish, depending on how things go. As long as they don't do daft things like that and go deep, that's really... I kind of cursed them a little bit there, but they're in an opportunity where they can still score at least, as I would say, a top 6 finish. If, from what the stint times are telling me, I still think that they are in a good prime position to hopefully score some points. But at the minute, the Porsche of the DCS Racing Blue is really giving them a hard time and taking a lot of curb. The rear end steps out. Just behind them is the iRacing team as well. Fran Lucas in the car, but Ethan Davies at the minute really looking racy at the minute. Then you got the other Lamborghini behind as well. Davide Adir Morocco also looking to try and attack the Porsche further behind. So we got 2 different fights all together as the Porsche really starting to put the pressure on the Delta Racing driver. Maybe Douglas getting out of the car may have not been the best choice here, as he's still fighting hard here, Lucas, as is going to lose out to the Porsche, and that's also hurt his run. But also the Porsche has a bit of a Larry moment through Ascari, and it all congests up once again. And here comes the iRacing Porsche, and here comes the Lamborghini. Are we possibly going to go 4 wide? Don't think so. It's there, the BMW's lost out to the Porsche, and now the iRacing team Porsche going to go down the inside, and the AM driver clears both pro drivers, and then through goes the other pro AM driver as well. And it's all getting really feisty here, Tristan, as they head down towards turn number 1 as the Porsche comes into the pits.
Yeah, lots of changing up happening here between these drivers, and things definitely are starting to get feisty, like we mentioned, in these final moments. I mean, look at the attack coming in from Welch Competitions here, trying to get ahead of somebody that he's not even competing with, and just making sure that he continuously is applying the pressure here. This is a great use of work coming in here from Welch Competitions. He's going to actually get up ahead here against the DCS Racing Blue team, but unfortunately not going to be enough to make his way through there. And just not enough to try and get up ahead. But my goodness, there is a lot going on here between all of these drivers. And now the top 2 competing continuously between each other. Welch Competitions now on the backside of the DCS Racing Blue team, and still putting the pressure on to continue on this fight. Hopefully we get to see a little bit more as it continues to progress throughout this race, and the rest of our drivers making their way up and down the pack here. Throughout this race. Lucas Oza, that's now Lucas Freire in the background, also trying to keep up with the likes of the Welch Competitions car as they continue to put pressure here. 42 minutes left on the clock, though. There is not a lot of time left to go here in any of this race, and Ronin PT still up in the lead. They have not come into pit just yet, so they are still keeping that McLaren out as long as they possibly can, and hoping to potentially further extend their advantage in this race. Team Racing Point Red and Team Racing Point Standard in 2nd and 3rd, still chasing on, about 21 seconds away from Ronin PT, but we'll probably have to come in to serve a pit stop shortly. Bravo Snow of Rafael Oliveira does indeed get ahead of the Andromeda Racing team of Andrew Brown. I think he had to come into pit, indeed he did. He's already in his pit box, and so that's changed up the top running order between all of those drivers, and the rest of the drivers will continue to progress as much as they can with the amount of time left in this race. And hopefully we get to see a little bit more happening up and down the grid. Still DCS Blue on the likes of Welch Competitions. And it looks like Welch is going to have the inside line now. Potentially will have enough to overthrow here and make the position stick. Keep your eyes peeled for how this changes up between all these drivers. And hopefully we will get to see a bit of change up in the top rankings here between all of our drivers. And obviously Welch still leading the Pro-Am Championship, the Pro-Am fight. With Team Racing Point quite a bit of a long shot behind, with a couple of the pro drivers in between the mix.
So as Porsche here looking at the front again, it's just they've done the hard work previously on the BMW, and now it's going to do all that hard work once again on the Lamborghini. Gains one place and then loses it straight away. So the DCS Racing Blue gained one place, but now losing another Pro-Am driver. Obviously just wants a couple of cars between himself and the other Team Racing Point Lamborghini, and at the minute he's got two between him, so that's going to be helpful. But at the same time, that Porsche is really relentless at the minute, really looking for that prime opportunity, and with only 40 and a half minutes left to go, drivers are going to get desperate. They're going to start to be a little bit brave as we see them all work their way through a sky, and you can see the Lamborghini trying to break the toe, and the Porsche still being incredibly relentless here and trying to find a opportunity to get past. But at this moment in time, these currently just can't find a way through, as the Project 91 Porsche now in pit lane, as we still watch this scrap at this moment in time. And yeah, the Delta Racing car as well just dropped off the pace of that Porsche, and just struggling to stick with them. So Lucas just trying to get himself into a rhythm here, but this is still a great scrap between these two. Closest fight on circuit at this moment in time, and yeah, the Porsche driver looking for any opportunity. Ethan Davies has looked very, very aggressive towards the latter part of this race, and is using his speed at the minute to great use, as the leader now, the Ronin PT car, has now come into pit lane. The question is, where is he going to fall out compared to the Delta Racing GTD car? Now, Lucas was in a scrap and has lost a lot of time. So the Ronin PT car of Carlos, who has come into pit lane, should hopefully having a little bit of advantage over them. And I think their stop has come to an end. So I know they're still going at the minute, but we'll see where that all pans out between that scrap. But there's still this titanic fight between Lamborghini and Porsche, and at the minute the DSC Racing Blue cannot find a way through.
Just not able to find a way through there for the DCS Racing Blue team, and it's unfortunate as well, because it's not necessarily a direct fight for him that he's got to try and contest for here. So a bit of an odd one that he's got to try and work with for the likes of all the other drivers that he's trying to work around. And obviously the DCS Racing Blue team now with the likes of Delta Racing GTD behind of Lucas Freire, and that is indeed a position for actual on-track competition, being both in the pro class, and obviously he's now got the Welch Competitions, who's just sitting up ahead and kind of blocking him a little bit. So this is not something he necessarily wants in this race, which is something that he's possibly trying to avoid. And hopefully we get to see a bit of a fight that will happen here for the DCS Racing Blue to get ahead of the Welch Competitions car. That is something that we will hope to see before the end of this. Our LC will potentially be under attack here by the likes of the driver behind, which that being the likes of Lucas Freire in the Delta Racing. So let's hope that's not the case for him, and let's hope he can try and make his way past the Welch Racing team, or else he will unfortunately succumb to an attack from behind. The rest of your grid is quite quiet for the time being, as the remainder of our drivers all try and work their way through the rest of this race. 37 minutes left to go. Not a lot of time left on the board here for our drivers to make this short work end in the matter of time we got left. 37 minutes left to go, and not not much opposition out on the track. This is your main battle with the DCS Racing and the Welsh competitions, and hopefully we get to see, like I mentioned, a bit of fighting between these two and the driver behind. That will be the best thing right now in terms of the entertainment for anybody watching in the virtual grandstand. And so far, it's just been an incredible race. If you have been watching with us since the start, we do appreciate you, and we thank you, as we are now closing up here for the final 36 minutes. And so not much time left to go here on the board for this race. And then we head on to round number 4 at the end of this month for the Nürburgring. Another great track for the GT3s to embark on another journey, and they will continue to push themselves out on track. Welsh Competitions, though, is going to claim some great points for the Pro-Am Championship, but DCS Racing Blue does need to do something yet to get up ahead.
They do indeed, and at this moment in time, there's not much they can do. And I've also noticed as well, Tristan, all the drama of these two going at it. We've had the Ronin PT make their stop, and they've come out in 3rd place position. They've had a great stint there, and has allowed them to get themselves ahead of Bravo Snow. Now, I'm not sure if that's due to possibly not choosing to take tyres. Obviously, no driver change needed either, so Carlos stayed in the car. So maybe it was just a splash and dash, and away they went. But it has put them into the top 3, and for them, that's 3 positions gained from the start of this race. So that's really elevated their race, and the strategy has worked for them. But yeah, they're now trying to make sure that they can keep up to terms with the Bravo Snow car, which is only 4.3 behind. So Bravo Snow could still slowly work their way onto the back of that leading McLaren. But at the moment in time, it seems to have worked for Carlos, and is now holding on to P3, while still this DCS Racing Blue. We said earlier on that Monza is a track that you can overtake, but as it stands, you can't. And here we've got a little bit of kerfuffle going on here. It's the Delta Racing GT going against the Rosso Esports Mercedes-Benz, and the Mercedes-Benz that was fighting the Lamborghinis earlier on. I say fighting, keeping them on their toes, is a little bit of a kerfuffle here with the Delta Racing BMW, and right now is still ahead of them at the minute, but just behind them as well, I believe, is the Porsche as well. I think that Porsche actually is a lap down, but either way, this is a scrap that's going on a minute, and the Ferrari as well in the background seems to be allowing the Mercedes-Benz through. So a bit of a squabble here as the BMW looks to go around the outside of the Mercedes-Benz, but can't get the job done, but has a tighter run through Parabolica and a much better exit, better run down towards turn number 1, and sitting right behind them, as just behind them is the Mercedes-Benz. So hopefully these two have a little bit of a scrap. This Mercedes-Benz could get onto the back of the squabble and try and gain a position on the pair of them. This is for the final top 10 position, and the Porsche behind them as well is in an awkward place as the Mercedes-Benz manages to outbrake the Delta Racing car and holds on for another position. But a titanic fight here for P10.
Yeah, titanic fight indeed for P10, and it's great to see that the fighting is still escalating further on at this point of the race. We are heading into that final moment of desperation here with 33 minutes left to go here, and this is where our drivers are really going to start to embark on a bit of a journey here to better those current positions that they have out on the track. This is obviously still the Delta Racing of Enzo Alquini on the backside of Rosso Esports, and that is, like we mentioned, this is the battle to try and get into the top 10. Rosso Esports obviously occupying the spot at the moment, and just not allowing for the Delta Racing GT behind of Enzo Alquini to get up ahead. It is also one of the Ansys Fisher cars behind, but I believe he's in back marker state at the moment, so not in a current battle. The Bonico Racing team, who had that large incident early on in this race, is still well in this race right now, and they are still trying to hold themselves out on track, currently 8th in the AM category, so they definitely are still trying to get themselves some points on the board, which is lovely to see when there is still effort made even after such a monumentous incident that has happened out on the grid. But we are officially closing in now on those final closing moments before we end off for this inaugural race that has given us so much action up and down for Monza. And hopefully for the last 30 minutes here, we can really have a good bit of action like we're already seeing here with the top 10 putting the pressure on each other. And obviously we did see that the Ronin PT car did pit, but here's the big thing. that we obviously have seen now, Dan, is that the Ronin PT car pitted, but came out in third position. So had a much faster pit stop than the Delta Racing car, and has actually been able to keep themselves well up in third position at the moment, and right behind the Team Racing Point Red of Giancarlo, and then Bravo Snow just a bit further behind. So great effort there coming from Ronin PT and Bravo Snow, and then Quad Ash just behind in fifth position. Vulture Competitions currently 6th. DCS Racing sits 7th with Delta Racing, the other in 8th position currently in that class order. It is then 10th position for Andromeda Racing. It's going to be 11th position for Delta Racing, 12th now for Andromeda, apologies. Then 13th for your Delta Racing with Leandro Toledo. 14th for the Rising Panda Racing of Christian Kamfreger, 15th for Just for Speed, 16th currently for PAC SimSport GT Team, and then Chrono SimSports is in 17th, 18th for Unitronic Fisher Motorsports, 19th for the Flight Level Racing Team, Project 91 Racing Team is in 20th, Suncure Racing Team is in 21st, Sahara X GT after having that small spin and the incident with their external hardware down 22nd, 23rd for the Impact Sim Sport team. And talking about it, here comes the action, obviously, that we've been talking about for the top 10. These two putting more and more pressure on each other as each lap goes on with Delta Racing and Rosso Esports. Hopefully, it looks like Delta Racing has indeed gotten ahead. And there's even more contact behind there with Ansys getting involved there with the Andromeda car, who's now also joined in on this fight. Andrew Brown is well within the mix here. And so it's two Mercedes against the BMW for the top 10. It's great to see. And now Rosso Esports is almost going to lose out to the Andromeda car. And so a good little bit of fighting action in the background there. Let's hope that they can keep it up. The Ansys Fisher Motorsports car is trying to keep himself within the wake of this battle, even though he's not directly competing for it, and still trying to score the points and get a little bit of slipstream in the same time of it, right behind the Andromeda car, who's now going side by side with the Rosso Esports car. But it looks like Rosso's going to hold it. It's very, very late on the brakes and completely missing the chicane there. Rosso Esports is not going to be happy with that one. He's going to have to let those positions go back. I'm not too sure when he's going to do it, because he didn't concede immediately there, but he did completely jump the chicane and well ahead of the rest of the drivers. So I wonder when on earth is he going to return that spot.
Oh, he's going to have to return, unless he's going to get a hefty penalty as we go into that last half an hour of this event. And as we go through the chicane, he needs to be clever of how he gives the position back. But the Delta car is going to go down the inside once again and should gain the position back. The question is, does he need to give back both positions? He's going to have to, because he did gain an advantage by cutting the chicane. So he has given the place back to both cars. But where he's done that has really hampered his run, and that's allowed a lapped car to split them as well. So the Rosso car, Felipe there, really did not plan that out very well, as he's now lost out to both cars, and he's now got a car between them as well. So it didn't quite work out for him, and it is now dropping back the order. The car, like I said earlier on, started in third, has dropped to the 12th position and looked like he was going to threaten for the fight with the Lamborghinis, but it just has not worked out. Meanwhile, further back, we see the Delta Racing Group in the number 4 car being harassed by the Rising Panda Aston Martin. I think that was only a 10th separating those two, so that looked like a close fight, as in comes the Rosso Mercedes-Benz. After all that, it had to stop anyway, and yeah, that's not really worked out on their strategy whatsoever. But yeah, like you said earlier on, Tristan, this is now where drivers are going to try and gain every second, every opportunity they possibly can, start pushing the limits. If they've not used those track warnings now's the time to use it, as there we see the Rising Panda right on the back bumper of the Delta Racing AM car. Now, this is an interesting scrap between these two, because the Just for Speed car is just behind them, and with them just behind, it's an opportunity where the Rising Panda car, it's in third place overall in its category, and it wants to clear the car in front. But the Delta Racing car will want to keep that behind, because there's a car between him and the other AM driver, but also he doesn't want any contact, and the Rising Panda goes around the outside, rising to the opportunity to get past, and through he goes. And then we're back to this scrap between the DCS Racing Blue and the Vulture Competitions car as well. So these two still going at it. It's been a great fight between them, and yeah, really pushing to the latter part of this event now.
Indeed it is, pushing on to these final closing moments. 27 minutes left to go in this race, and the DCS Racing Blue team has not been able to get past the Welsh competitions there with Davide De Marco. And obviously that Rising Panda racing car of Christian Kampfreger, he has obviously gotten himself into the third position spot, the podiums of the Pro-Ams, and obviously his intentions now to chase onto the team racing point of Stefano Guingato. But that is quite a bit of a distance up ahead on the track, and only 26 minutes left to go. So, not much time to play with yet to try and gain up on second place. So, not met much of a competition there. Unfortunately, the rest of the grid has subsidized a little bit here. There's quite a bit of a gap going on between most of our drivers. The main battle is the one that you're currently watching out on your screens at the moment, the battle between DCS Racing Blue of Ethan Davies, who's back in the car now for the final stretch, and then Welsh Competitions' David DeMarco, who is holding it out strong in 6 positions, who's taken over from his 2 teammates, and Luigi Caputo has really done his job to put that Welsh Competitions car where it belongs, and now all that David DeMarco needs to do is keep his stride going and keep nice and consistent to keep the 189 in the lead of the Prams. Jumping into the pit lane though is the Quad Ash car alongside the Ansys Fisher Motorsport car, who is going to jump into the pit lane as well. I believe that's the Unictronic Fisher Motorsport, sorry, not the Ansys. And obviously Delta Racing, the LMGT also jumps in, a Guilherme Bazzato. So a little bit of a change up going there. DSP Sports Racing team of Luca Picardi and the Ronin PT Red of Diogo Ricardo will move up due to those pit stops. And so a couple of changes happening all around our grid for the time being. DCS Racing Blue still leading with Ethan Davies. Sorry, not leading, still 7th, chasing onto the backside of Welsh Competitions. And Lucas Ferreira is quite a bit of a long shot away, unfortunately. So even if the likes of DCS Racing Blue cannot get past Welsh, there's only 25 minutes left to go. And obviously and the likes of Delta Racing GTD and Lucas Ferreira, you can see him in the background there in the WRT styled BMW, is still quite a long shot ahead, quite a long shot away in terms of trying to fight it out here. So you got to just keep your eyes peeled on those drivers back there in 7th position. That's currently how the racing is looking. Andromeda is also trying to push their way around and try and control themselves down at 11th. That's the chasing onto Delta Racing GT of Enzo Alquini. And that's how those drivers are all looking at the time being. Your lead for the AMS is back to Delta Racing's Leandro Toledo. 3 tenths behind him is the Just for Speed of Pascal Eckhart, who's back into the Just for Speed car. He started the race, and he will be ending the race, it looks like, for the final 24 minutes left to go here. Last bit of stretch for these drivers. They've already gone through 2 hours and 35 minutes, and now with the last 25 minutes to come, it is a very short amount of time left out on track in order for them to claim those points for the 2026 calendar of the GT Endurance Cup Europe into round number 3 after the inaugural round number 2 Spa 24-hour, which has really presented us some good amount of racing and some good bars that have been set in terms of the GT racing here in this class. And now hopefully Monza will also continue to carry that stride. Well, it already has. I mean, we've seen some great challenges all across the board here so far for tonight's racing, and that has really just proven to be quite beneficial for everybody watching in the virtual grandstand. With all the overtakes and competition we've been seeing all over the circuit, it really does provide quite a bit of entertainment as we continue watching through here. The Just for Speed car of Pascal Eckhart is right on the tail of the Delta Racing team of Leandro Toledo. So this is another battle. There is obviously that battle with the DCS Racing Blue, but that's not for class. This right here is indeed for class, right? So this here is for the lead of the AM class, and so this is going to be quite important for Delta Racing's Leandro Toledo to try and keep himself up ahead. Otherwise, Pascal Eckhart is going to start putting pressure here. The German driver behind does want to try and claim some redemption here. They unfortunately didn't get the 24-hour Spa that they were hoping for, and so now they're hoping that they can claim some good points here in the 3-hour of Monza. Holding on strong there just behind the Delta Racing car of Leandro Toledo. And now diving up onto the left-hand side. Is he going to make it? And indeed he does. Not even a competition there. It looks like Delta Racing just gave the place over. And so Just for Speed moves up into P1 now for the AM classes. Bravo Snow gets up ahead of Ronin PT of Carlos Coxincio. Has he had to pit again? I'm wondering if Carlos is back into the pit lane. I'm seeing his name grayed out. No, there he's gotten back up ahead of Bravo Snow, so he definitely hasn't pitted again. And he's currently under pressure from Bravo Snow. The two of them are right behind each other, but busy putting some pressure on each other as well, which is great to see. But so far, so good for the Just for Speed team that just moved up into first and aim to try and hold it for the AMs.
Indeed, they have, and like I said, a little bit of time now where they need to try and keep that speed up. They were giving the pros earlier on a little bit of a headache, and now leading back in that AM class. But the Delta Racing team probably aren't done yet. They are going to try and recover and come back and try and put the Mercedes-Benz under a little bit more pressure earlier on. Probably that fight with the Racing Panda earlier on, probably a Rising Panda, sorry, didn't help out for the Delta Racing squad. But either way, they are still in this. They still were in an opportunity to score some decent points. But overall win in AM would be nice for them, as they're going to try and stick to the slipstream and try and find a way through. But at this moment in time, it's not looking like it's going to be an opportunity for them. As they head into the Curva Grande now, we're back with the Lamborghini and the Porsche. And they head into the final chicane, the second chicane, sorry, and the Porsche is still pushing hard. Just behind them as well as the Rosso Mercedes-Benz, I think, gone a lap down on these two. So the fight still between the Porsche and the Lamborghini goes on, but with the pace they've set, they're actually pulled away from the Delta Racing BMW and the Team Racing Point as well, as they're going to push through to the end. And with only 20 minutes still left on the clock, all the opportunities are still available, but still out in front with a comfortable lead is the two Team Racing Point Lamborghinis, with a 35-second gap to the next car of Ronin PT, who though have done a great job to work their way up into that third place position and seem to have got Bravo Snow under control at this moment in time. But pushing to the end now. This is the last chance. This is the last opportunity for things to happen. Everyone, I think, will pretty much be on their stops and going to the end. So it's all about those last positions, those last opportunities to gain on the cars in front, as the Porsche is still trying to look to get a good opportunity to find a way through on the Lamborghinis in the tow. Is he going to be brave enough to be later on the brakes as they head down now towards turn number one? And still no opportunity for him there, waiting for the prime opportunity. Maybe a mistake could offer an opportunity for the Porsche driver.
Yeah, an opportunity maybe coming in there for the DCS Racing Blue, and we could potentially be seeing some overtakes happening there for that driver as they continue to push onto the backside of the Vulture and just not able to get past. It really has been a bit of a difficult one here for Ethan Davies, unless he's just maintaining in the wake and waiting to try and just hold himself compared to the rest of the drivers here. So let's hope for some redemption for DCS Racing Blue. Otherwise, he'll just be sitting in the background there. Unfortunately, the Delta Racing GTD car there of Lucas Ferreira is catching up, and so he does have to watch out for that car there in the background. This is the Delta Racing car of Leandro Toledo, still busy chasing on to the AM top spots here. Currently sitting in second in the podium spots, right behind Pascal Eckhart, and just not able to reclaim the throne, and still losing out, as we've already seen. The German driver up in front of Pascal Eckhart got ahead about 2 laps ago, and Leandro Toledo just hasn't had enough in the tank to get up ahead and try and remake the position. So it looks like for now he is just traveling in the slip and hoping that potentially there will be an error from Just for Speed Pascal Eckhart. We are into the last 18 minutes here of this race as we come towards the end of it. Dan will be taking you through the last 15 minutes of this race here, and we'll have to see how the race is going to transpire within these last couple of moments. This is the final closing moments here before the race comes to its abrupt end in this event for round number 3. And obviously Team Racing Point looking to take the double whammy in the top 3s there, with 2 teams up on the board. Ronin PT of Carlos Coxinho has played the ultimate pit stop strategy to keep themselves up in 3rd position, and they've done an incredible job at that. Bravo Snow, though, in the background also has done a great job with Rafael Oliveira. keeping his stride nice and tidy in 4th position. Then got Quadash with Tristan Engelstad in 5th position. Then obviously Welsh competitions of Davide DeMarco leading the Pro-Ams right now, with DCS Racing Blue just not able to get ahead. Talking about Lucas Freire and behind, he was 7.8 seconds. He's now 8.3. So unfortunately, he's dropping again now to the DCS Racing Blue team. And if he does want to try and catch up in these last 17 minutes, he's really going to have to push himself through these last couple of moments. Chrono Sim Sport does get ahead of Delta Racing's Leandro Toledo. Has he come into the pit stop? I am seeing him drop. Indeed, he has. And Delta Racing's Leandro Toledo, who was fighting for the top spots here in the AM class, which now makes sense why he didn't even bother fighting Pascal Eckhart, has had to come into the pit lane to get that car service one last time before the end of this race. So he's going to drop down all the way to 3rd position in the AM class, and the 747 Fly Devil Racing of Jonathan Foytik is actually going to get into 2nd place here for the AM category. So somebody who's been completely unknown for the entire race now will take that 2nd position slot. An incredible job to keep himself in that position. And now hopefully with these last 16 minutes left to go, he can keep himself in that current wake and try and keep the momentum to keep himself in 2nd position, with the rest of our drivers all still trying to navigate around. Nearly on pace, also currently on board with them. They're currently in the background there in 25th behind the Unitronic Fisher Motorsports. And this is for actual position out on track. This is the battle for 24th position, but it is the battle for 6th position in the Pro-Am class. So good points on the board here potentially that they could be fighting for with Nelly on pace in Unitronic Fisher Motorsports. Austin Edwards in that car, and then obviously Fabian Schmidberger just in the background there on the Nelly on pace car. Sankey Racing Academy of Cameron J. West just in the background in the 26th position. And just about 15 minutes left to go in this race as we come up to the closing of it. Sankey Racing and Delta Racing LMG3, Gulham Buzato down 9th. Sahara XGT Motorsports Ismail Laib, he's a little bit down at 28th position after the small errors he made early on. And Antis Fisher Motorsports of Tane Hodgson. Impact SimSport SPR does get ahead. Is Rosso Esports into the pit lane again? Indeed they are. And Felipe Bronstup is going to take to the car now for the final small stint. I don't even think you can call 15 minutes a stint. This is quite a big moment here for those drivers. And unfortunately for Rosso Esports, I mean, Dan, we've seen their transition throughout this race. They started well up at the top ranks here. And unfortunately for Rosso Esports, just not having the luck in the pit stop strategies and obviously making a couple of errors, as we call them, blind errors, that are errors in consistency, have just thrown them so far down on the grid here that there is zero competition for them at this current time being. They've got zero opportunity of being in the top ranks in this race, which is so unfortunate to see because Rosso Esports, incredible drivers, just not getting what they want yet again at Monza.
Yeah, it didn't work out for them, and as you see, they've just slowly tumbled down the order, and it's just not worked out for them at all. But either way, like I said, they were threatening the two Lamborghinis to the front, and it's just gone backwards for them since. But we are in a massive conjunction here with loads and loads of back markers now starting to hold up the Lamborghini and the Porsche. This is where the DCS Racing Blue could make that opportunity to take that place away from the Lamborghini. And now, as you go into the last 15 minutes of this event, we're going to have to say sadly goodbye to Tristan. It's been a pleasure sharing the combox with him, and looking forward to the end of this race now. And yeah, it is going to be an interesting end for this event, but I'll make sure I give you all the action as we go to the end. And already they've cleared one back marker. Now the Lamborghini and the Porsche need to clear the other, but at this moment in time, the Lamborghini driver has held on to the position. The Vestia Competitions car still hanging in there with the DSC Racing Blue just behind them. So, and just as you can see ahead, there's more scraps going on as the Ferraris switch positions there. The Porsche, then the McLaren, all still for these guys to clear. It is going to be a stressful end to this race for these two, battling it out for 6th and 7th place position overall. But for the Pro-Am driver, it is the leading race, and right now this is the last thing he wants to see. The congestion of cars ahead of him, this is going to cause all sorts of problems as we go back on board with the two fighting for this position, and the Porsche driver going around the outside of Parabolica, just trying to find opportunity. And there the Lamborghini pits. So your leading Pro-Am driver has to pit. So Davide into the pit lane, and it's got to be for a splash dash. That has now released the Porsche of the DC Racing Blue. And has he possibly been using that car just to tow around, maybe just lift and coast and get to the end with little fuel as possible? But yeah, the Porsche now clears the Lamborghini, and that puts the other Team Racing Point car, the other Lamborghini, up into the lead of Pro-Am. So that's ideal for the for Stefano there. He takes the lead of that class as we now look on board with the Porsche here, the 24th place for Porsche as the Fischer Motorsport Porsche we're on board. The 84 looking to try and make a move on the Ferrari ahead of him. The DSP Ferrari, I believe he's in a scrap with by the looks of things, and trying to find an opportunity. He's got a McLaren up his backside. No, so the Ferrari, I'm afraid, is actually a lap down by the looks of things. It's the McLaren actually that seems to be the thorn in the side of the Porsche here. The Scanu Racing Academy, the Cameron J. West, currently really starting to put the pressure on the Porsche. And once again, they got a lead car behind them. And do they allow the car through, or do they continue fighting hard as the McLaren now looking for an opportunity? The Ferrari ahead of him looking like it's going to cause a little bit of problem, but the McLaren allows the leading Porsche through. And is he going to try and use that car to try and find a way through? He goes very, very wide through Parabolica, so possibly not worked out the way he wanted to. And the Porsche comes in as well. So the Lamborghini filter car looks like it's still got an opportunity to have a fight with the DC Racing Blue Porsche, but we're still on board with this Scanu Racing Academy, and just behind them as well is another fight. I believe that's the Aston Martin of the Rising Panda, and there we see the Delta racing car coming out of coming down the straight up into P4 now, as the Bravo Snow car has had to stop as well. So maybe towards the end of this race, has cars have to splash and dash. The Team Racing Points have as well, so they've been in. So Ronin PT, their strategy actually has worked out. We thought this was going to be a 2-stop. It's turned out to be a 3-stop. So right to the very end, it is all up for grabs here. The Lamborghini strategy has still paid into their hands. They've still got a 14-second gap over the Ronin PT cars, as they've just come in for a quick splash and dash. But the Bravo Snow has now lost out to the Delta Racing car. They're all back into their original position except for the Ronin PT. They've made 3 positions in this race, but we're still on board with this scrap between the Scanu Racing Academy and the Fischer Motorsport as we are into the last 10 minutes of this race. So the splash and dash was something that all guys needed to do. So the Delta Racing and the Ronin PT just did it at the beginning of the race and just used their clean air and pace to work their way through the order. Yes, it put them in the traffic, but in the long run, it has helped them come forward in this race. But the Scanu Racing Academy car still going tooth and nail with the Fischer Motorsport Porsche, and Austin Edwards holding on against Cameron J. West as he has to go defensive to the inside, as the McLaren not quite far enough alongside to really find an opportunity to get through, but hopefully the tow will aid him as they then head down to the first chicane. Every second, every minute counts now towards the end. Everyone is on their last runs here. A 3-stop was turned out to be the strategy, and this is paid out to the Team Racing Point car Lamborghinis. They've had this race under control. We go back to the Vershi competitions car, and it's on the back bumper of the Mercedes-Benz. And it's going to be looking to go down the inside of the 138, a little bit close under braking, but he does a little rub, but through the inside, and the Lamborghini gains the position. Robin's racing, but he has a terrible exit, ends up on the gravel and in the dirt. That's going to give the opportunity to the Mercedes-Benz to get a run through the Curva Grande, but can't get alongside currently at the minute. Has to look for a position into the second chicane. The Lamborghini defending heavily here from the Mercedes-Benz. Down the inside we go, and the Lambo holds on and continues its fight with the DCS Racing Porsche ahead of him. But we were adamant that strategies had all played out and all had finished where they should have been, but turns out that people still needed to make that splash and dash. And still though, the Lamborghini's out in front, controlling this race at their home race here in Italy. As we look to your race leader, Gabriele Rosno, who is leading the way at this moment in time, has controlled the pace pretty much from start to end and has looked mighty. The 19 car hasn't really looked backwards since. It has been in control. It has been able to have its teammate behind them as well to control the pace and just gain those little seconds and tenths that they needed to make. Strategy worked out in the end for them as well. That seemed to pan out brilliantly. They had no real stress to deal with other than possibly trying to clear the traffic through the race. But other than that, they've looked mighty here. And just behind them as well is going to make it a 1-2 for the team at a Racing Point, with the team Racing Point Red just behind them as well. So Lamborghini looking mighty here in Italy for this round of the championship. And as Tristan said earlier on, we got 2 rounds still left to go, with 2 3-hour races on the calendar. Nürburgring is the next round of the championship, and just after Nürburgring it will be Portimao. So make sure you tune in for those races, because it is going to be a dramatic end to the season. It has been a fantastic season, but those Lamborghinis of the Racing Point cars have looked mighty. They still lead the way with the Pro-Am car still going the way of the Virtue Competitions car. They're in 8th place. It's been a Lamborghini domination so far for the Pro and the Pro-Am, but the leading Am car is the 127, the 4-speed Mercedes-Benz, and they are your leading classes at this moment in time as we work our way into the final 6 minutes of this race. Lamborghini versus Porsche once again, these two stuck at the hip, but this time it's the other way around. The DCS Racing Porsche having to defend now from the Virtue Competitions car just behind them. Are they going to start putting the pressure down on them to try and get a mistake out of it and try and gain a position back, try and keep another car between them and their rivals? But at this moment in time, they don't really need to either. Just hold on to that position and they will win in their category. But the team Racing Point's 27 car is another I think about 15 seconds behind the overall lead. So right now the Virtual Competitions car of Davide don't really need to really make any threat here to obviously win their class. Obviously another position would help them out massively, and Ethan Davies wouldn't want to be stuck behind that Lamborghini once again, so he's going to be doing everything he possibly can to stay in front. But into the final 5 minutes we go. A couple of laps left of this event, and what an event it's been. And like myself and Tristan have said throughout this event, it has been incredible to see the very little amounts of incidences that's happened. Only one full course yellow we had earlier on. No safety cars, which is good to see. A couple of penalties been handed out in the background, but yeah, nothing really dramatic here at Monza, which is a shock, because usually Monza is a guaranteed race where things could get spicy, and it hasn't happened here. So a very clean and fair race, especially for a 3-hour event, as we go through Ascari for another time. And that's 94 for those guys that work their way through Ascari, heading down to Parabolica. It looks like the Lamborghini had a much better run through Ascari and into Parabolica. And the Porsche just hanging in there now, trying to break the toe as the Lamborghini tries to get into its slipstream and gain those couple of miles an hour as it heads down to turn number 1. Can it outbrake the Porsche? That is the question. And there the Porsche has to go defensive. Lamborghini to the outside. Can Davide get past Ethan here? Ethan does a good job of defending the inside, and Ethan goes a little bit wide, but the Lamborghini of Davide just makes a little mistake, and that's allowed the Porsche just to hold on for another lap. So these two having a titanic fight and a great fight nonetheless. And Stefano in the other Lamborghini Racing Point car will not be able to catch these two. So really, it's just makes a pride for Davide here as Porsche makes a mistake. Ethan Davies there has to defend as they go into Lesmo 1. There's still no opportunity for the Lamborghini to find a way through. These two have had a fantastic fight, been clean, been fair, and it's only really been the pit stops that's been allowing these two to switch positions. So we'll see if Davide can get it done on track as they head up to Ascari for the 95th time. Through the chicane they come, and this time where the Porsche seems to have a much better line through there, but once again Davide carries the speed so much better. The Lamborghini looking a lot more settled on exit and is going to try and make the move down towards Parabolica. Ethan makes his one move, and around the outside, can Davide get the job done? He pushes it right to the limit. Contact is made, and there has Davide possibly thrown his win away. Where is Stefano in all this? That is the question. But yeah, just a silly mistake there from the Lamborghini. Possibly looks like it's a overhead cam. If we have a look through here, did he just touch the grass on the outside? It cuts the nose and slight contact made with the Porsche. I think he touched the grass, which kind of made him a little bit more unsettled, and then contact made with the Porsche. But he's holding on to that lead at this moment in time, but a scary moment for him as the leaders are now within 4/10 of one another. So Team Racing Point now, they've got the gap of 15 seconds. Who's going to be the leading car though? Who is going to win this event? Is it going to be the 19 or is it going to be the 16? So have they just been able to allow themselves to get into a point, right, let's get ahead, let's make sure we keep the gap, and let's go and have our own fight at the end. And the Team Racing Point cars, the 19 obviously will want to win this race, has led majority of the race as well, and this will be the final lap. So according to our timetables there, this will be the last lap of this race. Now can Gabriel hold on for the win here, as his teammate is really starting to put the pressure on right in the closing stages of this race. And nonetheless, it's been a fantastic race for either one of these Lamborghinis, but the 19 car wants the privileges, wants the pride, and wants the home win in the Lamborghini here at Monza, just outside Milan. And here we go down towards Ascari. The other Lamborghini, the 16 car, not quite close enough. Looks to the inside, possibly. Are they going to do a switch position? No, they're just going to hold it station for the minute through Ascari chicane. One danger avoided, one more to go. Car gets out of their way as they head down towards the Parabolica. Or is this a photo finish for the two, making it a 1-2? Another car out of the way. I think it's the Kunos Mustang staying out of the way. And into Parabolica we go for the final time. It is going to be the 19 to exit Parabolica and to win here at Monza, Italy. It's Lamborghini who win, but it's Racing Point 1 and 2. They take the pride here in Monza. They win the event. Congratulations to them. Ronin PT, another 15 seconds down the road for them. That they're going to complete the top 3 positionings, but what a drive from these two. The Team Racing Point Lamborghinis, domination from there. And here is your leading Pro-Am driver, and it is the Verci Competitions car. Davide in the pound seat, in doing it for the team Lamborghini, once again making it a Lamborghini domination for both classes, and is going to come through Ascari chicane. They've only got a couple of corners to go. A little bit of a scare with the Porsche earlier on, but we'll keep hold of the Pro-Am lead ahead of the other Team Racing Point Lamborghini. Would have been ideal for Team Racing Point to get 2 wins in 2 classes, but not to be today, as he comes into the Parabolica corner, and now and through comes Davide to take a class win in Pro-Am. The Lamborghini wins again, but in the Pro-Am class, as the Virtue Competitions car wins in the Pro-Am category, and ahead of the Team Racing Point 27, and then the Rising Panda in P3. And here is your leading AM car. It is the Just for Speed Mercedes-Benz. The Delta Racing car, nowhere to be in sight. They're a lap down. This is the last car to cross the line, and they are going to take the win in the AM class ahead of the Delta Racing and Flight Racing to complete the top 3 in AM class as well. So the Mercedes-Benz stops the Lamborghini domination completely in all 3 classes, but it's the Just for Speed to win. But they have come to an end here. The 3 hours of Monza is done and dusted, and as you can see, the 2 Racing Point cars there. As you can see there, Gabriel in the end taking the win ahead of the Team Racing Point teammate. 19 and 16 lead the way. Carlos in that 3rd place position, with Lucas in 4th for the Delta Racing. Bravo Snow in 5th, with Tristan in the Koresh Racing in P6, then the DSC Racing in P7. Then it was the 138 of Andrew Brown finishing in 8th place position ahead of the 55 Pax Sim Sports of William Bestbrook in 9th, and Enzo in the Delta Racing car as well. And the top 10 of those guys in the pro class. The 91 in the end finishing in 11th place, with the Simmer in 12th. Sarah in 13th, with Impact Simsport in 14th, Fisher Motorsport in 15th, Rising Panda 16th, with 17th going away Rosser Esports, and Prism in 18th place position for your pro class. And they have been fighting tooth and nail throughout the whole event. We look to the Pro-Am results. It is Virtual Competitions who win, with Davide in the 189. The Team Racing Point in that 2nd place, nearly taking a double win in classes. Rising Panda in 3rd, with the Kronos Esports Sim Sports in P4, DSP Esports Racing Team in P5, Sanco Racing in 6th, Fisher Motorsports in 7th, with Delta Racing 8th, nearly on pace in 9th, and running out the top 10 is Rusty's. With then still the 11th and 12th place position guys, who ended up 2 laps down and 56 laps down. And finally, our class, and like I said earlier on, is the Mercedes of 127 of Pascal in the Just for Speed, winning that event, with Delta Racing in P2, Flight Level Racing in P3, with 967i Racing in 4, Ronin PT 5th, and then the DSP Esports, then Andromeda Racing in P7, and then rounding off 8th is the 119 with 5 laps down, and then the Turn 1 car never finishing the event. And that has been the 3 hours of Monza here at the GT Endurance Cup. It's been a dramatic night's worth of racing, and yeah, that is that. And we look forward to the next round of the championship, which will be at the Nürburgring. For now, that is it from us, and we shall see you all next time out at Nürburgring towards the end of August. I've been Dan Davis. Just Tristan has been joining me in the commentary button. Thanks again to Howie in the background, who has been doing the producing as well. We're going to have to call it a close there, I think. Or are we doing interviews? I'm not sure if we are or not. Just getting confirmation if we are or not. But yeah, we're in a little bit of a tight schedule here. So hopefully we can just see what pans out here. But either way, it has been a fantastic event. Okay, ideal. As we get the Just for Speed guys in the chat with us as well. As we got Lewis and Pascal in the chat with us. And guys, it's been a dramatic race event here in the Monza 3 hours. It's been spectacular to watch. And race winners here today. Talk us about that. A hard-fought race this evening.
Oh, my guy, you don't have any idea that the Merc was such a shitbox, to be honest, on this track. Like, the conditions were so high. I was just sliding all the time around. You saw I lost it at Parabolica once, just on the brake. I lost the rear and then spun, and God thanks I saved it. But yeah, it was pretty fun. We had a nice battle with Delta Force, P2 AM class in Ascari. It was pretty fun to drive, to be honest. And yeah, that's all I can say.
And either way, even though the car was a struggle, it seemed to be very good on the straights and a good points for yourself. You're giving the top guys a little bit of a headache. Moving to Nürburgring next on the calendar. What's your hopes for there, and what do you think you can achieve there? Take a possible another win in the AM class?
Maybe, yeah. It's our home track. We're from Germany, so let's see what we can do there.
And yourself, Lewis, your same questions to you and how you felt tonight.
Yeah, I think the main problem was that the my first laps was quite dirty, to be honest. Had a bit of struggle to find the groove and get into the race, but following the last laps of my stint, I was feeling the most competitive, and also I can't share the opinion with Pascal there. The car was not that easy to drive this race, but I think we did the best we could, and we did the best pace we could on the car. But yeah, we are happy to win, and because Spa didn't work out as we expected, and Red Bull Ring also. But now I think we deserved to win this race. Yeah, and for the Nürburgring, I think also high hopes because it's a home track, and also we won the 24 hours of Nürburgring on iRacing, so yeah, it's a bit of an advantage for us following the race, and yeah.
Well, either way, congratulations, guys, on a fantastic drive, winners of the AM class, and we look forward to seeing you towards the end of the month at the Nürburgring for your home race.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
See you soon.
Bye.
As we have got the Racing Point driver in here, the 27. I think, is it 27 or 19? Either way. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
So, which one are you again? The winning one? Like I said.
Yes, I have the team principal, so I can speak for both.
You speak for all of them. Home race, obviously, for the team, for the car as well. Absolute domination. We were, at one point, myself and Tristan were unsure about what the strategies were going to pan out. Obviously, the Delta Racing guys and Ronan PT put it early. You guys left it late. It really kept you on your toes, but it seemed like very much race was in control.
Yes, actually, they catch the situation at the beginning of the race when during our full course yellow they pitted the Ronin and the other team. We're not. We were waiting for another full course yellow to have this. So to say, this gratis pit stop, but it doesn't come. So we had just to push and try to win on the race and not on the pit stall. So we did classic, so to say, a classic strategy. Something different we did with the tire strategies. Also, we didn't change always all the tires. For this reason, we couldn't manage just the advantage that we had.
Towards the end there, you seem to have a little bit of a scrap between teams there. Was it gloves off, or was it always going to be the 19 finishing first? And also then going into Nürburgring, what's your hopes there? Seems to be having a great season here at the GT Endurance Cup.
Also, actually, between the 19 and this 16 team, the rules before the race was in front the team with more points in the standings. In the championship standings, obviously. At the end, the number 19 started from pole position. They managed a really good race, and just the last couple of laps was just for the photo finish, for the photo at the finish line. Was just for this that the number 16 approached the number 19. For Germany, for Nürburgring. Yeah, actually, now I think we are first and second in the championship. We will try to keep this position until the end of the championship, obviously. And yep, we hope it will be a little bit cooler, not so hot.
Either way, fantastic job from the team, and congratulations on your 1-2 here at Monza.
Thank you very much. Congratulations to the guys, not to me.
Well, team owner, you get the bragging rights, don't you?
Yeah.
We've got our Pro-Am winner here as well. We've got Davide joining us in the comms. And heart and mouth out moment at the end there, mate. A little bit of contact with the Porsche, but nonetheless, you took the Pro-Am win. How does that one feel?
Hello, everyone. Yeah, it's a little bit shame with the contact in the final, but it's the plus for the position because our objective, sorry for my English, was the P1 in our class, and we did. So we are very proud about the race. Difficult race because the temperature on the track are really high, but we work very well with the setup, so we have a strong pace. Also, my teammates, so we are happy for winning the hour class.
And what's your thoughts of Nürburgring next on the calendar, and what can you do at that circuit?
That circuit we like it, so we need to look our car how it's good for the track. And nothing. We will see. If it's possible, we want to repeat the P1. It's difficult, but we'll see.
Well, congratulations on the win, and best of luck at the next round at the Nürburgring.
Thank you. Bye. Bye, everyone.
And that's all of our winners here this evening for the 3 hours, of Monza. And we look very much forward to seeing you all once again here at GT Endurance Cup for the next round of the championship at the Nürburgring. Again, a massive thank you to Howie and Tristan, both joining me in the comms box, and very much looking forward to seeing you guys all once again at the end of the month. Make sure you hit a like and subscribe to the channel, and you won't be able to miss anything here if you hit that bell as well. But for myself and everyone here at GT